Titans, Will Levis said yesterday it was actually a decision made by the quarterback coach, not Brian Callahan, or at least it was delivered to him by the quarterback coach and not Brian Callahan. But Will Levis benched yesterday, 8 of 12, 3 interceptions, a fumble in there as well, a pick six, I believe his 4th pick six of the season. And dear friends, we gather here today to say goodbye to Will Levis's career as a starting NFL quarterback, probably.
I don't know. It's up to the brass and what they're thinking. Was yesterday bad? Absolutely. But Bill Callahan, well, Brian Callahan has said, listen, we're sticking with Will Levis. He said that in previous weeks. He's our guy into the end. And I believe him. He's their guy to the end until he shows me otherwise, meaning Brian Callahan. I don't believe he's going to bench Will Levis for the remainder of the season.
But he was non-committal yesterday.
Yeah, he was, but
for the first time.
But he has said before that Will Levis is our guy, and we're moving forward with him for the remainder of the season. He said that weeks ago. Now, could there be a change of heart? Absolutely. But until they make that change, I'm not going to sit here and saying he's definitely going to bench Will Levis. Will Levis had a horrible game yesterday, and it just wasn't the picks. He just didn't see the field well yesterday, as he has done in previous weeks. He had a good run for 3 games, a good run, and when I use good, it's like good is the only word I can
good with
give
the bar set
exactly.
Low.
So he's had a good 2 or 3 weeks prior to last week, prior to this past game, but it was just, to me, it was a colossal failure for him. He's just not reading the field properly the way he needs to, and I'm not sure if that will change. To me, I was thinking about this morning. To me, he's one of those. He's like one of those computers, or back in the days, you can relate to this, Willie, the old Nintendo, where you have it and you stick the cartridge in there and it'll work for a minute and it start messing up and then you got to blow on it. And then it give you maybe 1 or 2 good games, but then it'll go back to messing up again.
Kids don't remember that these days.
That's Will Levis. Well, kids need to go look at it. That's Will Levis, or to bring it to modern times, he's a computer. That's just what he is. He's one of those computers that works, and then all of a sudden it goes on a fritz, and then you get it fixed, and you think, okay, now it's about to finally work. You get it home for another week or 2, and then you have the same problems that you had prior. Just go get you a new computer. Don't try to hold on to this lemon of a computer. I'm not saying Will Levis is a lemon, but what I'm saying is that he's shown you who he is, and believe him, he's not a starting quarterback at this juncture in his career. He's not. Is he a backup? Absolutely, he can be a backup. But he's not equipped at this moment to lead a franchise, because essentially that's what a quarterback does. He's the leader of a franchise. And Will Levis hasn't earned that right to be the leader of this franchise. So do you sit him? Do you continue to let it ride out? I've said before, let it ride out of the season, because I don't want to be fooled by this no more. I don't want him to have 2 or 3 games like he had prior to Sunday, and everybody's thinking, oh, he's turned the corner, and then he has a game like that. So it's up and down. Let him play it out, so at the end of the season, we will know definitively he is not the guy.
Willie, I would love to get your reaction to this, because I hear what Derek is saying, but I'm not sure I don't think there's any coming back from yesterday's performance from Will Levis. Even if the Titans were to go back to Will Levis for the remainder of the season, even if he puts together games like he did against the Chargers and those games that he had after he came back from injury, where we were wondering, hey, maybe we've got something here. I think yesterday was so horrendous. I don't think anybody would be convinced of his ability as an NFL starting quarterback, even if he were to put together games like he did before this game, because yesterday was just so bad.
Well, I've tried to be as consistent as I can. I was not singing his praises. I was giving him modest gains in those games that you referred to, and those were better defenses. I I think what's been really disappointing is, in particular, the last 2 games against bad defenses, that he has really regressed in different ways. He's now also, this is what we've said all along, he's at the 20 start mark. I've been saying, and this, I think, it's an arbitrary number. Some could say 24, you could say 30, but I think 20 is a pretty good sample size. And that on start number 20, I think, said a lot. It was such a typical thing of where his bad traits came out so strong and snowballed, where each pick, the confidence went down. His bad habits reared themselves. His weaknesses reared themselves. So where to go from here is a great question. I mean, I'd love to go through the 3 interceptions
And we
with
will.
D-Mace
We will.
and what happened on each play, because it just has you scratching your head, because it wasn't a game where he was under a lot of heat. The Bengals have one great pass rusher, and they brought some blitzes, but by and large, for a second straight week, he's not playing against a great defense. So there should have been some stuff there. Mason Rudolph came in, albeit they were way behind, and it was borderline garbage time. And the last drive, of course, they scored a touchdown. That was true garbage time. But you saw a difference with Rudolph coming in there, reading the defense, taking what they gave him, and it looked a lot easier for him. And Rudolph had one really awful pass that was interception and still had a passer rating of 110. Will Levis had a passer rating of 49 and a QBR of 1.1. So you have 20 games of a sample size. The last 3 games, it depends on what are you trying to accomplish in the 3 games. Like, they have division games.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, they would pick 6th. Are you interested in playing the guy that gives you the best chance to win those 3 games? Because I think the answer would be Rudolph at this point. Rudolph outplayed Levis yesterday, so if you're going by that, you should start Rudolph. If you're in the let's just ride out the string, win or lose, like, I don't know how, like you always talk about how does the locker room react? That has to weigh in on the decision. But it's a really interesting question on who should start the last 3 games. Because
the locker room knows.
Because I do agree. I think it's kind of we've seen enough. I don't know if he has earned the right to continue to get the chances just because of his regression. And I agree with you. I think it's like, you could be your backup, but you cannot start planning for next year and saying he's going to grow into this. Like, I think at 20 games, I don't think you can say that anymore.
And Derek, you've talked about this a lot. We did this exercise. You gave us some homework. Willie and I did the assignment, looking at times where quarterbacks were benched and whether those teams went back to them. And we found few examples of quarterbacks who were benched, teams went back to them, and those players had fruitful careers with that particular team. So the question is, as Willie said, I know what I would choose. At this point, if you're going to be this bad, just be this bad so that you raise your draft stock. But Brian Callahan has to look out for himself too in this situation. And if I wonder, Derek, from a player's perspective, after what happened yesterday, if Brian Callahan says, as he did yesterday, we needed a spark, we took Will Levis out, he had 4 turnovers, you have to remove him from that situation. If they go back to Will Levis after that, there are guys in that locker room that are going to be here next year, plenty of guys. And if we assume Brian Callahan is going to be coaching this team next year, you may be putting yourself in a disadvantageous situation if you're Brian Callahan and you go back to Will Levis, because you have to look out, as you've said many times, you've got to look out for that entire locker room, not just the quarterback.
Yeah, you do. But I'm telling you right now, the entire locker room knows that, listen, neither one of these quarterbacks are tilting the scale toward winning. That's just the way it is.
Appears to be giving you a better chance.
Okay, you got to look at the pros and cons of both of this, okay, and just look at it, for what it's worth. How do you want to win? Okay, you look at the remainder of these 3 games. How do you want to try to win? Do you want to try to win with a guy that can make every throw? And at making every throw, he's going to put you in a position where he may turn the football over, and it's more likely than not that he will turn it over. But he can make every throw. He can push the ball down the field. He gives you more of an explosive element, so to speak. Or do you want to go with the guy that he doesn't give you that ability to throw the ball down the field consistently? He doesn't give you the ability to maneuver in the pocket or get outside the pocket and make plays on a consistent basis. But he is taking essentially what the defense gives you. He's doing it from that. And you may score, you may not score. But what he does for you is he allows you, you don't have that fear of just running your plays, I think, with Mason Rudolph. But the upside with Mason Rudolph is really not there. Like, he can't single-handedly win a game for you. Is he going to do the little smart things like check downs here, check downs there, and hopefully we can move the football down the field? Is he going to do that? Yes, he's going to do that. But starting off the game, because it's different coming in when there's a quarter and a half left and you're down 14 points. It's different when you come in and defense is playing. Let's just force them to move the ball down the field methodically. Take up time. We don't care if you get the 5 here, the 3 here, or the 6 here. Just make you drive the field methodically, because we don't believe you can do it, because once the field starts to condense, it works in our favor. Do you want to go with that? You can go with that, but know this. Defense are not playing that coverage 4 quarters. They're only playing that coverage when you're down, when they're up 10, 14 points toward the end of the game. You're going to get a true sense of defenses if you start him at the beginning of the game. So defenses are going to play what they're going to play. They're not going to say, hey, we're just going to sit back, force them to drive the ball down the field because we're up 14, 21 points, and just let them have the mucky stuff as long as they don't get in the end zone. So you gotta sort of take your pick between the two. Either you want a guy in Will Levis, who's, yes, he's going to make some mistakes. Yes, he's not going, in my mind, he may not even be the quarterback for next year, but he still gives us the ability to throw the ball down the field the way we want. Or do you take Mason Rudolph, who, listen, it's nothing spectacular. We may move the ball down the field, we may not. But one thing he's not going to do is misread the field the way Will Levis does. So it's sort of this, the good or bad with one or the good or bad with the other.
Willie, I saw this tweet from Easton Freeze of ADC Sports that I actually thought was pretty accurate. He said, if you could merge Mason Rudolph's mind with Will Levis's body, you'd have a real good quarterback.
That's exactly how I explained it.
Yes.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of truth to that. And that's wishful thinking. Do you want Mason Rudolph just to walk as a free agent? Is he at all in the plans? I think there just has to be, and hopefully they've already had this discussion last night, because I think today it would be smart to say this is the direction we're going. We're going to hear this in 15 minutes.
Hopefully.
I don't think a wishy-washy, hey, we'll see kind of thing. I don't know. Like, you got to stick to your guns. Either go ride it out with Levis for good or bad. And I still think even if he would play well and rebound in the last 3 games, I think I keep coming back to the same thing. His stats are at the bottom, not just below average. They are at the bottom of the heap in the key categories, the sacks, the quarterback rating, the passer rating. It's way down there. And he has not shown a lot of growth. If anything, he's regressed.
Mm-hmm.
And it depends on what are your goals for the last 3 games. And is Mason Rudolph even in the picture for next year? Or are you more now thinking, Levis, let's develop him as the backup and let's go with something else to be determined at the end of the season? Because whether 0-3 in these last 3 games and picking 4th is a heck of a lot different than winning one of the 3 and picking 9th, or winning 2 of the 3 and picking 10th or 11th. There's a lot of bad teams. I was looking at this morning. And so it's like, Do you really want to win these games? It's a scary question.
So if you want to lose, then keep Will Levis.
well,
in the game.
I didn't say that, but it's like,
That's
I don't
essentially
think-
what you're saying.
But Mason
if he
Rudolph,
plays the way he's playing, they will not win another
Exactly.
game.
Mason Rudolph
can't win.
I use this word a lot when it comes to Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph will provide you more competent quarterback play, but he's still not good enough to win you many games. I still think the Titans could go 0-3 with Mason Rudolph at quarterback. It won't burn as spectacularly as yesterday's game did. And by the way, what an incredibly sloppy game it was overall.
But you've got Houston, who's going to rest guys, right? Houston's not going to play their guys in the
they've
game.
already won the AFC.
They've got it locked up, and maybe they can play for a seed, but they're not going to get a bye.
Well, they still will get a home game no matter what because they won the division.
Right.
Yeah.
So
they're
going to rest guys.
I don't know how much they have to play.
That's going to be a bonus. That's going to be a glorified scrimmage, basically. You've got Jacksonville, who I don't know if they're in the same situation tonight. Do they really want to win? Do they want to win? It's weird. Like, if let's take Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard probably is going to be on the team next year.
Mm-hmm.
Is it best for Tony Pollard to play hurt, which he tried to yesterday? He was hurt yesterday. Didn't really make it through the game. Or should you just play Tajay Spears, hope that he rebounds and has something positive going into next year and isn't a lost season? He had a couple of really nice plays at sort of garbage time yesterday. Or is it better to shut Tony Pollard down or push him through? These are the decisions that I think the Jags and the Titans have. And then you have the Colts, who completely had a debacle yesterday and should have been playing for a playoff spot this coming Sunday, but now they're pretty much toast after a complete meltdown in the second half that we can't even go into right now. So it's three really interesting games to play out the string. So what can you accomplish in these three games? That to me, you have to decide that and then decide who plays quarterback.
Brian Callahan will address reporters scheduled at 11:30. And I agree with you, Willie. I think it would be wise of Brian Callahan to make a declarative statement as to what's going on. Either we're going back to Will Levis or Mason Rudolph will start. I don't think he would do himself any favors by being ambiguous about this. But the question I have for all of you at 615-737-1025, and I've already seen some of it in the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Who would you start for the remainder of the season? Are you done on Will Levis? It doesn't matter. You don't want him to. You do not want to see Will Levis again in a Titans uniform on the field. There were apparently some cheers yesterday at Nissan Stadium when the quarterback switch was made. I didn't hear it on the broadcast. I'm sure there are videos on social media. But are you completely out on Will Levis? You do not want to see him throw a meaningful pass for this franchise again? Or do you want to stick him in there and help this team plummet further down the standings? As Willie said, they have a lot of competition for worst team in the NFL. So number one pick is far from guaranteed, but I would love to hear from all of you at 615-737-1025. It's just how quickly it unraveled. He had the fumble on the designed run attempt. Then he throws an interception on 3 of his next 7 passes. Like it looked pretty good to start, right?
No, it wasn't bad.
He completed his first 5 passes. They were keeping pace with the Bengals. Joe Burrow was turning the ball over. He had a first half interception, which the broadcast said was his first since like the 2022 AFC Championship game or something like that. It wasn't all bad, but when it got bad, boy howdy, did it get bad. And I just my thought on it is I know what Derek is saying. Keep Will Levis in there and remove all doubt. I think all doubt has already been removed. I think the performance yesterday undoes a lot of the quote unquote good that we saw from Will Levis since he returned from injury.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if it took you this game to realize, because again, I didn't want to get fooled. I didn't want to look at these last 3 games, which I didn't, but I didn't want to look at these last 3 games and say, prior to yesterday's game, and say, oh, Will Levis is turning a corner, keep him in. No, my thing was, listen, just keep him in, regardless if he plays good or bad, keep him in through the duration of the season, so no one will be fooled at the end of the day. So you can't come to the fan base and say, well, we saw some exciting things about Will Levis, we just need to add around him, and we know you won't. He's not a starting quarterback in this league. And if you allow him to finish the season out, you will get that. You will
You know,
more than get that answer.
And that, I think, is
moving
the
forward.
silver lining, is that it is clear cut. The hardest thing to do is when it's a gray area. And that's why I keep coming back to the numbers. Even when he was playing better, most of it was with them way behind in
Weren't
games.
good numbers.
Huh?
I say they were not good
No,
numbers.
no,
like
they
you're
were
saying, yeah.
okay numbers,
Relative,
better number
relative to
his,
what we had seen
his very low level at the
Yes.
beginning of the season. And and even those good numbers were in the context of games where they were way behind most of the time. The game was basically over. When the games have been on the line and tight, that's when he has shown the bad habits. So
Right.
to me,
Remove
what
the
you
garbage
have the
time.
ability
Remove
to
the
say,
garbage
we've
time.
given him 20 games.
Mhm.
It's clear cut. His numbers are of a very low rated passer that does not grade as anywhere close to an average starting quarterback in the league. He's 25. He's not 21 or 22 like Anthony Richardson, who I think they got to keep riding that. His numbers are awful too, just
Mhm.
terrible. But he's young enough and inexperienced enough that maybe they can grow with him. So with that in mind, to me, I think that you have enough numbers to make a clear-cut decision.
Tennessee Titans head coach Brian Callahan will address reporters scheduled at 11:30. We will bring that to you live. You can get your thoughts in on our phone and text lines at 615-737-1025. This week's Nashville's Best Deal is from Brewster's Real Ice Cream in Hendersonville. Brewster's offers handcrafted cakes, pies, and ice cream flavors of peppermint Oreo, eggnog, and gingerbread man. Enjoy the magic of homemade happiness this season. Visit thegamenashville.com/deals now and get half off a $50 gift card while supplies last.
Happy Monday, everyone. This is Derek Mason. You heard me tell you about Dr. Lodge and his staff over at Cool Springs MD for some time now. If you set out to lose weight, chances are it's not your first time setting a resolution or a goal to shed some extra pounds only to face disappointment. But at Cool Springs MD, Dr. Lodge and his team understands the frustration of this cycle, and that's why they offer a different approach to weight loss and to you obtaining your goal. Their comprehensive weight loss program is led by Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and addresses the root cause of weight gain with tailored nutrition, exercise, blood test supplements, and more. They will customize a program specific to you and you only. So connect with Dr. Lodge at CoolSpringsMD.com today to schedule your appointment for a personalized weight loss plan just for you. That's Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
1025 The Game and Cromwell Media have teamed up with the Nashville Predators for Coats for Kids, benefiting the Boys and Girls Club of Middle Tennessee. Donate a new or slightly used coat at the Game Studio and at the Fordyce Centers in Antioch, Bellevue, and Clarksville. Also, this Friday, the game will be at the Fordyce Center in Bellevue from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., taking donations, giving away swag, and tickets to an upcoming Predators game. Coat donations will also be accepted at the Preds home game at Bridgestone Arena on Saturday, December 21st. For more information, visit thegamenashville.com/coats. Willie Darnick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingen here with you, awaiting Tennessee Titans head coach Brian Callahan. Trey is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Trey, thank you for calling quickly. Please go ahead.
Hey, my guys, how y'all doing today?
Good, you?
I'm good. I'm good. Hey, my opinion only, but I feel like personally that if Will Levis steps back on that field, it's the tank. Because of what because I don't even watch the games. I don't even watch them. But I feel like that, his he doesn't have tangible skills. It's not there. Yes, he has a great arm, but can he read defenses? Can he step up in the pocket? Can he throw the slant out for 5 yards to get a first down? I don't see it. It's not there. So why would he go back out on the field if he doesn't have a tangible skill set? I've been saying this for 2 years. He doesn't have it.
Thanks.
And I'm glad y'all took my call, and y'all have a good day, guys.
Thank you.
y'all.
Thanks,
Trey.
Trey. Tell us
Trey
how
has
you
been
really feel,
He's
Trey.
been consistent.
But Trey said he didn't watch the games. I guess he got tired of watching them.
Reading the defense is something that he called, I think, on Friday.
Yeah.
We got into this. The tools versus, the tools of physical, being able to throw the ball with velocity and make all the throws, quote unquote, versus reading the defense. I saw this, D. Mason. I'm going to be curious to what Coach Callahan says here, breaking them down. But it seemed to me he was frustrated on the first one because I don't think the depth, the wide receivers were in the right
distribution
spot.
wasn't there.
And still, I don't think he didn't see the guy come off the coverage, and it was picked. It looked bad, but then he loses confidence. Then he tries to rifle one in on the next one. He's frustrated. The play's there. It's not complicated coverage. If he puts it on the money, it's there. But it's high and hard. It gets picked. And then the third one is the classic single high safety. They get exactly what they're looking for. It's first down. He's got all day to throw. And he just didn't read the defense. He didn't make the safety commit. He made up his mind before the ball was snapped, it looked like to me, where he was going to throw it, assuming that the throw was going to be there, instead of maybe seeing what the safety did and then pick your option. Okonkwo. There's only 3 guys in the route.
Yeah.
Right? It's
route.
NWI or Chig over the middle.
Or take
And
the
he's
guy
got,
down.
if he makes the safety play one or the other, he's got a shot at one of those. That play's been run for 1,000,000 years, right?
Yeah, and it's going to continue to be ran. And Will Levis has a bad case of tunnel vision. That's what he has. Once he determines in his mind before anything, if he determines he's throwing the ball somewhere through hell and high water, he's going to throw the ball, regardless of what the defense is playing, especially when you look at that second interception. It might have been the second or the third, when he was trying to throw it to Chig. A novice quarterback in the NFL would have seen that coverage and known, hey, listen, if I'm going to throw it, I'm going to wait till he crosses the safety's face, and I'm going to throw it more toward the sideline than anything else. But Will Levis hadn't learned that yet. Okay, so he knew, he had anticipated where he was going to throw the ball at that moment, and didn't recognize what the coverage was. It was almost as if it was like just Titan players on the field and no bingo players. That's the way he saw it. Right. He just saw an open guy flash across him. He didn't see the defensive back just sitting there. The defensive back didn't go anywhere. The safety sat right there for at least 2 seconds. It was the safety basically said, hey, listen, Will, I'm here. I ain't going nowhere. You need to throw the ball over my head and don't throw it at all. Oh, you still going to throw it? okay, I'm just going to intercept it. Thank you.
But that's what Levis should be able to do. He's got the
He
arm,
can't do it.
but he's got the arm to make that safety respect the deep throw, because NWI is running a straight sprint. He's caught a 98-yard touchdown pass. He's got the defensive back beaten. That DB probably needs some safety help, but that DB doesn't even flinch. He sits
Brian
on the
Callahan
route.
is at the podium. We take you there now.
Call this week. So we'll see. He's just got to progress through all that throughout the course of the week. We have our normal nicks and bruises and guys that'll probably be out of practice Wednesday and Thursday here and there. So nothing really changes. Hopeful to get a couple of hopefully get some guys back that missed this week. So we'll see. But still decently healthy at this point and feel pretty good about that part. And other than that, I'll let you guys go ahead.
Callie, after watching the tape, how many of the turnovers were more on Will? How much of it was a combination of things going on around him in the game?
Yeah, I mean, every interception has its own story. There's always things that you can reason or explain. At the end of the day, four total turnovers by him and 6 total is not going to allow you to win the game. And there's the blame can be placed in different spots, but ultimately as the quarterback, he's responsible for the football and where he puts it. And there's probably, one really poor one, and then one that, ball gets tipped in the air. Sometimes those things happen. So, blame wise, there's enough to go around, and he certainly shares it.
We'll go through your thought process and determine maybe where to go from here at the quarterback position and what kind of time frame do you think you'll
have. I think, I'm going to use the next 2 days to go through that process and make sure that, the decision we make is the best one for our football team, and not really much to add to it at this point. And that's something we can visit with later in the week. So take the time here that I have to go through it all and make sure, we're doing the right thing.
To what degree at this stage do you have the information you need for your long-term verdict on Wood?
Yeah, to me, that's the long, you start talking long-term stuff. Those are all postseason questions. Those we're in a week-to-week battle right now. We're trying to find the best way we can to win the football game, trying to put the best possible performance we can put together. We got 3 weeks to play, 3 divisional games. So that's really what our focus is on, is how do we best attack those 3 games and finish the season on hopefully a high note, and that's all I really worry about right now. My focus is on those things, and those questions are for after the season. We get a chance to sit down and really look at the totality of work and where we stand.
What would be the benefit of moving away from Will at this stage?
I think there's the guys in the football team want to feel like, we're all held to the same standard, and that's the biggest issue you face is there's a locker room component to all these things and a team component to it. So you try to do best by all players involved, and the guys getting ready to go play games on Sundays want to feel like we're going to put them in position to win, and that's ultimately where that's my job as a coach and our job as a coaching staff to do that. So as far as one singular player development versus all the other stuff, those things aren't what we're focused on right now. At the end of the day, we're trying to put together the best possible performances in 3 games left in this season, and then we'll move into the offseason part of it.
Do you feel the other guys in the locker room have lost confidence in Will being able to win?
And I don't feel that way right now. No, I don't think that that's the case. I just think that, when you make mistakes, plenty of guys on our roster throughout the course of the season have they're just held to a certain standard, and you want to make sure that standard is consistent enough across the board at all positions. So just got to make sure that that's the standard we follow, and that at the end of the day, if you're in position to make plays and you don't make them, or we have errors that cost us games, those all count the same. I think across the board. So those are the things that I have to look at to make sure that we're doing right by everybody involved.
In light of that,
do you feel like that would be potentially just a 1 week kind of thing? Would there still be a chance that will return, or would that likely be more of a?
I'm in a day-to-day mode right now, to be honest. There's not a whole lot that I'm looking past besides just trying to get ready for practice on Wednesday and Indy this week. So that's where my mindset is, and it has to be that way right now as we try to finish the season the right way. So that's ultimately where my mindset is.
In light of how he played yesterday and the struggles that he had,
with nothing other than practice or film watching to show for it, what would he have to do in order to win your confidence in him to
We've poured into Will as much as we possibly can. And sometimes you have bad games and then those things happen. So I don't live and die by it. And I don't think that because you get pulled from a game, that means that it's over for a player. I just think that was the decision we had to make in the moment. And there's a lot of things that Will's done well. I think he's improved. There's a lot of playing of the quarterback position. I think that he's done a lot better job of, and he had a really poor outing yesterday. And that was, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's the end for him at any point. That's just part of playing quarterback in the league. There's plenty of guys that have gotten pulled from games after poor performances, and they get better for it and come back better from it. So those are the things that I'm looking at. And ultimately for us, that it's nothing in this league is final in that regard. There's no finality to that. So he's still a young player. He's still learning, and we're still coaching and trying to get the best out of him. And again, I think I've seen improvement, and he had a bad day.
With you saying that your decision, what you're weighing is giving everyone else the best chance to win. Are you saying you feel like that would be the benefit if you decided to move away from Will, the possible benefit? Is that what you said, just so I'm clear?
Say that one more time.
So when Paul had asked you about the benefit or the reason why you would consider Rudolph, where you were saying that you felt that the possible benefit would be guys held accountable and the rest of the guys on the team getting a chance to win?
I think the easiest way to say it is that there's there's a standard of play, and there's been multiple guys on our team that we've sat down for performance. The guys that we went through the right tackle position all over the place. We've made changes at linebacker, we made changes at safety, we made changes at returner, and so those are all things that are just a part of NFL life and a part of performance and trying to win football games. And you just have to make sure that when you're making decisions and you're coaching, that's the same across the board for all positions, and the quarterback position is a part of that as well.
So right now, as what you're pondering is whether or not he gives you the best chance to win. Is that what's kind of the root of your decision?
I think it becomes whether or not he's played well enough to, when you have a game like that and you put that on tape and play not very well, are you held to the same standard as everybody else? And is that the same? Is it consistent? And I think that's the thing that I have to. That's part of my decision-making process.
But Ryan, he is the quarterback. Is this solely your decision, or does a change like this have to go through Rand, Amy, or both?
I mean, it's something that we would always have in-depth conversations about between Rand and Chad and myself, and our coaching staff's involved in that process as well. So, these things are all discussions that get had, and it'll all be part of the process as we work through the next 2 days and as we get ready for practice and where we're going to go with it all. Nothing gets done around here without all of us having the discussions and being on the same page, and whatever decision we make, we move forward with it together. And that's how it's been with everything we've done over the course of the season. This isn't anything different. It's very consistent in that regard.
Can you talk us through the actual process of sitting him down yesterday? How did that fall on Bo's shoulders, and when did you kind of talk to Will about everything?
Well, it's, in the moment, it was a pick six. And so we're getting ready to go back on the field again. And so immediately after that, I made a decision to make a change, and I started immediately getting ready for the next series, that involves having discussions with Mason, getting the play selection squared away. What does he like? What direction we want to head to feel comfortable coming off the bench. So, that's part of what quarterback coaches, that's part of the communication over the coordinators, whoever's down there with the quarterbacks in between every series. That's how that gets communicated. And so in that exact moment, I was getting ready to go. I made a decision and I went right to Mason to try to get ready for the next series. And because of the time frame in between, that's generally how it ended up happening. I talked to Will briefly after the game, but there wasn't a lot to be said at that point. It was just at 4 turnovers in a short amount of time, and we needed something to change there and to spark for the team, and that's the decision that I made. And Bo communicated to him, and I was getting ready to to get ready for the next drive and the next series and call the rest of the game. And so that's how those things happen generally in the moment. So yeah, that's the best explanation I can give for you.
You talked a lot about kind of belief in the process and progress and so forth. What do you think? I'm sure there's a lot of fans that are obviously frustrated and maybe not seeing the progress and aren't sure about the process. What can you say, if anything, to kind of assure them that things are moving in the right direction as far as you can tell?
I mean, I've said a lot of it before, to be honest, but I think if you look at the way our team, the energy that they play with, the preparation, these are the things that you don't see as a fan. You just see Sunday as a fan. And there's a lot of other things that go on in the building on a day-to-day basis that I have a lot of belief and faith in, and guys do things the right way. I mean, our guys practice hard, they prepare, they get up to play every game, and they're ready to roll. And it's, I mean, there's no better example of that energy is that when T Sweat, they fumble that ball, he's running on the sideline. You should see what our sideline looks like. The excitement and energy and the way that those guys respond to each other. Like, these guys love playing football. They love playing together. And I think that those are the things when you're looking for in a team, the connection that the team has, those things give me a lot of faith that the process and how we do it is solid and it has done some good things. We just don't have results to show for it. And the second part of the process is you got to be able to play well enough to win games, and we haven't done that part. So I get where you look at it and go, well, what is happening? Why does it look this way? And I get it, but we're coaching as hard as we can coach. Guys are getting ready for every game as hard as they can. And we put ourselves in some bad spots with some of the way we've played and coached on top of it. And so, it's been a battle, and it's hard for me to sit here and try to sell everybody all the time on what's happening. I know what's happening and I believe in it. And I know exactly the kind of team we have. I know exactly the kind of people in our locker room. And I know where we're headed and what I see happening. And so those things to me, I got a ton of confidence in that part. And I can only project that by what I say and whether people believe me or not, it doesn't really matter to me because I see what's here every day and I see how our guys work. And I get to interact on a daily basis with everybody in this building. And that part gives me a ton of confidence in the direction that we're going to head. And I know that it doesn't feel that way outwardly right now. And I can't control that. I can control what happens here and how we go about our business. And that's the only thing that I focus on. There's certainly nobody out there more frustrated than me because I know what we're capable of and we haven't been able to reach that this year. And we're going to have to do a lot of getting better in a lot of areas to continue to win. And that's just where we are. And we're going to try like hell to finish the season the right way and try to win as many of these last 3 games as humanly possible. And they're going to get the max effort from our players and our coaching staff to do that. And then we'll hit the off season and get ready for what's next after that. So again, it's hard for me to sell what I see with 3 wins. I get that, but I know what is in this building, and I know what we've done and how we've done it. And I have a lot of confidence in that's the right way of doing things and that we're going to be headed the right direction.
We're talking a lot about the culture, which is what you just kind of laid out there, that it remains positive through it all. But you've also said how important it is to have results to validate that. When you look at the wins, losing margin, turnovers, penalties, they're all demonstrably worse than what they were the last 2 years. How do you justify that in terms of the progress?
Yeah, what are we comparing? You know what I mean? You're comparing entirely different teams, entirely different regimes. I don't get into that game. I don't think that's not fair to our players here to compare those things. Yeah, those things have to get better. We've got way too many penalties. Some of those things you can control, some of them you can't. The ones that we can control are not good enough. Turnovers, the turnover margin, I think we're dead last by quite a bit. I think and if we're not last, we're definitely second to last. And you can't win games turning the ball over like that. And there's, again, whether that's whatever the function of that is, it's everybody's involved in the process of turnovers, but it's been far too many of them. And those are the things that we got to get fixed. And I'm not making excuses for those. That's not anywhere close to good enough. But I don't get into the comparison back and forth. That's your guys' job. You can do that. The fans can do that. But I don't compare years to years as far as getting better or getting worse. We're trying to get better where we're at now. And then we've not done a good enough job in all areas. That's why we have 3 wins. And so we have to find ways to get better, but I don't compare them to anything else. We're just trying to work and get better as where we are right now.
Earlier you mentioned
some of these personnel player decisions kind of being more rooted in winning now and trying to win, maybe more so than specific development. When you look at that broad scheme of things and that plan trajectory for the organization, why is it important to you to win now, given how many young players that need development are on your roster?
Yeah, well, there's quite a few of them playing right now. I would say we I don't know what the actual numbers are, but we got to be up there in terms of rookie play time for sure. And then first and second year players, there's a lot of them. And development and trying to win sort of run parallel to each other. You're trying to do both at the same time. But you know, ultimately it's a production business, and you have to win football games. That's what we're all here for. So we all get paid to do is try to win football games. And so you do your best to do the two things at the same time. But I mean, we trust me, those guys there's development occurring. I mean, there's a lot of positive things with our young players, guys that are doing some nice things and have gotten better every week. But that's all part of that process. They run together. You have to be able to coach and develop while still trying to win as many football games as possible. Because there's at the end of the day, we got to win.
Seemed like Mason was getting a lot of checkdowns that the Bengals were perfectly fine giving up. And one time he tried to drive something, he got intercepted. But how did you rate what he did, and how do you factor that in as you're deciding?
Yeah, all matters. It's all part of it. You know, he functioned. He found completions. He moved the team down the field, so that part was positive. You know, we still had a fumbled exchange, and we still had another interception. So again, that's concerning. Those aren't things that you get excited about. And then the game script for him was well in favor of the other team. And so they weren't playing the same style of coverage necessarily because they didn't have to. You know, that's what happens when you get into a drop back game when you're down 2 scores or 3 at certain points. And, you know, they're willing to give you those things, but he kept moving the ball and they kept fighting and they kept trying to find yards. And, you know, that all changes when you play in a normal game script as well. And it's, you know, you look at his starts against Buffalo and Detroit and normal game script. I mean, he's shown that he's capable and he's throwing the ball down the field and all those things. So that part is more specific to what was happening in the game than it was anything else.
Will said yesterday that when he struggled the first time against the Jets and the Bears, that his confidence took a little bit of a hit. He had to get himself back. And then you said yesterday too that you felt like things had gone in a downward spiral. He wasn't going to be able to dig himself out of it in that game. Does he have a bad habit of maybe being too high when things go well or too low when things don't go well?
No, I actually think that's one of the things he's probably improved quite a bit is his consistency to his approach of not riding those emotions, the not getting too high, not getting too low. That's the NFL football season, particularly if you're playing quarterback. You know, you're going to have good games and bad games. You're going to have interceptions and touchdowns. There's a lot of opportunities to play, and there's things that go up and down as the season goes, and you try to keep it as consistent as you possibly can with not too many lows, and you want more highs. But he's done a really nice job, I think, of being able to handle all of that. I think he's really improved his demeanor, his consistency, and his approach. And that part is part of playing quarterback in the NFL. You have to be able to manage that and not ride that roller coaster of too high or too low. And I do think he's done a really nice job of managing those things and learning how to do that. That's a challenge to do, and you have to learn how to do that. And he's done a good job with that part.
With Luke in the protocol, are you down with the rookies in the?
That was Tennessee Titans head coach Brian Callahan addressing reporters. A lot to get to. We will react to it. Coming up next, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
It's never too early to start thinking about the big game, people. And this November, Zen Sports, a new sports boutique in Tennessee, has launched their big game for the sweep. Excuse me. Again, I am a quick here, people. I'm talking about Zen Sports right now, and I've
We need some David Letterman,
Yeah, we
Paul
need some,
Schaefer, page turning music.
Exactly.
For musical interlude.
We're gonna need
We need
that.
an organ player just to start hit the rain delay music.
Just play it for a
while
quick
D
second.
Mace pulls up the right copy here.
Yeah, the
this
right
has happened
copy.
to all of us.
It happens to everybody.
It happens.
It's normal.
We
It's
feel
like
normal.
Don't
yes.
feel bad.
Don't feel bad at all because I'm laughing right along with everybody else.
We support you, Derek.
I have so many Zen Sports in here.
Zen Sports is great.
Yeah, but they're launching their December for the big game in college football. We need to find this. This is just a colossal. I'm pretty much the Titans here, people. So stick with me. Pretty much here, but just unlike the Titans, I do come back. Okay, and I come back with a vengeance. I started off slow in the first series. I started off slow in a 3 and out, but I'm coming. Couple penalties, but I'm coming back for y'all. I'm coming back.
Way to rebound, Derek.
I'm coming back like the winner that I am.
It's first and 20, and now we're attacking down the field.
And now we're about to score. We're about to call a Hail Mary to Willie, a streak to Willie. Right
the goalposts
now.
are going down. The goalposts are going down.
Zen Sports just launched just picked their grand prize winner for the November Big Game Sweepstakes. And they are running it back in the month of December with the Big Game Sweepstakes College Edition. People, this time, instead of going to the big game for the pros, they're giving you a chance to go to the very first big game in the new college football tournament with a grand prize of $10,000 cash and 2 tickets to the biggest college football game of 2025. Yes, the one right down the street south of us in Atlanta, and the ability to earn entries on every bet you place in December. It doesn't get much better than this. If you don't win, don't worry about it. If you don't win the grand prize, don't worry. You'll also have a shot to win one of 10 small prizes, which grants you $1,000 toward any college playoff football game in 2025. So what are you waiting for? Head to zensports.com/sweepstakes for a full list of rules and earn $100 no danger wager on your first bet. That's Zen Sports, where betting just got better. And remember, gambling problems, call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 years or older to bet here in Tennessee. Touchdown!
Yay, Derek!
D. Mace, Fingan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, and Adam Vingan here with you. That was
classic.
That was the ad read of all ad reads.
Yeah.
Derek Mason.
That was wonderful.
We love Zen Sports over
Zen
here.
Sports.
125 The Game.
Byron on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHunting.com, says, awesome recovery.
Yes,
you
thank
handled
you,
that
thank
very
you,
well.
Thank you. I didn't panic.
No, we
I
did
didn't
it all
panic,
together.
yes.
We did it all together.
That's teamwork right there.
That's why I had to stop. I had to stop myself from laughing, which I was doing at first. Then I was able to help you.
I heard the little snickering to my left. I'm like, I got to stay focused. I got to find it. Adam's laughing at me, but I got to find it.
Look, we've all been
I deserved
there.
that.
You did a great job. You recovered nicely. It was all about the dismount, right?
That's why he's a pro.
All,
we go.
all around, all about the dismount. So we heard from Brian Callahan, and I thought, all things considered, he handled himself well. I thought he answered the questions the right way by keeping it solely focused on the short term. But there was something that he said early on, because the first thing he said was he was going to take time over the next couple of days to make the decision as to who is going to start at quarterback for the Titans this week. We didn't expect a declarative statement, but he said he was going to take the next couple of days. But in answering further questions, you could sort of read between the lines as to which way he was going. And there was an answer he gave about, he said, the guys on the football team want to feel like we're all being held to the same standard. You try to do your best for all players involved, and the players in the locker room want the best chance to win football games. And to me, that felt like a indirect endorsement, perhaps, of Mason Rudolph. Although he did not say who was going to start at quarterback, the answers to his questions, Derek, seem to suggest that if he's leaning one way or the other, he's leaning Mason Rudolph.
This is an important week for Brian Callahan. And not because of wins or losses or really trying to evaluate your team, because I think pretty much they know what type of team they have and they know where they need to upgrade at. The most important thing for him right now is to not lose his locker room. We discussed this about 10 weeks ago. And I remember saying the thing that Brian Callahan can't do is lose his locker room. And this is when Will Levis was playing really bad. And my thing was put Mason Rudolph in. So you don't, it's not about Mason Rudolph's going to get in there and just turn this team from the bottom of the league to now one of the best teams in the National Football League. No, that's not the ideal here. The idea is to not lose your locker room, because if you set standards and everybody else has to reach those standards, and your quarterback, who should be held to the utmost standards, you're allowing him to sort of walk through it without any repercussions. That can cause you to lose a locker room. I said that 10 weeks ago, and it's even more true today. Even though in my mind, it's like, listen, is Mason Rudolph going to win you football games? More than likely not. No. Is he going to turn his team around and all of a sudden you think you got an offense that can head into next season feeling good about themselves? No. The most important part of this right now, whichever decision you choose to make, is the locker room. Your decision should be based upon your locker room at this point of the season. If I throw Will Levis out there, and you've already said, Callahan already said, like, listen, guys are being held to a standard. And he basically was saying, if I don't really evaluate this in the next couple of days and possibly don't bench him, what does that say to everybody else? And everybody else going to turn around and is like, hell, you benched the left or right tackle 8 times. You benched that guy over there. You took the returner out because he fumbled. But the quarterback has basically lost 6 games by himself. And you still allow him to go out there, trot out there, and be our quarterback? That will lose you a locker room in 5 minutes. The minute you say he's your quarterback, guys are going to be looking around like, you guys to be kidding me, man. is anybody being held to a standard here?
I thought he did a good job of steering the questions away from the big picture stuff, the future, and did what a coach should do, and that's say, we've got a game on Sunday. I've got to try to coach this game. The big picture stuff is more for the GM, and that's a whole nother subject, because the GM does not create the narrative, sell the narrative that he should be doing, in my opinion.
But don't you think that now is don't lose your locker room?
Absolutely. I think you're dead on right. I agree with everything you said. The other point that jumped out to me regarding the quarterback is this again goes to your theory, Adam, which I agree with. Reading between the lines, I think he's already decided that he's going to move forward with Mason Rudolph this week because A, he deserves to play. He's outplayed Will Levis. And B, he gives him the best chance to win the game. But C, I think he has now seen enough. What he said at one point was, in the follow-up questions, was, we've poured all kinds of time and resources into Will Levis. You know, it's not, he says, I have been more than patient, is what I was hearing from him. He wasn't using those words, but I think he's tired of going out of his way to try to squeeze blood from the turnip or whatever, right? I mean, he's trying. He's given him every opportunity to succeed, and it's just not happening. So at some point, you've got to cut bait to save the locker room. I think for a while, the locker room will go with you. Like, okay, he's young. Maybe he'll get it. But at this point, I think everybody sort of said, there is a standard, and he's just so far below the standard. We just can't keep running him out there, at least not today. And he may come back. They may have somebody get hurt. He gets back in there. That's fine. But to just move mountains and say he's the guy no matter what, I think those days have to be over.
So a couple of texts on our text line. We asked the question earlier, and if you want to get in on this, you can at 615-737-1025. What would you do? Who would you start at quarterback over the final few games of this season? One texter says, here's the deal. Play Levis. Make it conclusive one way or the other. Leave no doubt on the decision. The season is over, so it allows you to build a better picture going into the offseason. Winning this year is futile if you're not building data points for next year. Ben says it makes zero difference at this point if he can improve with that being Levis and be a decent quarterback. He will definitely not be elite. That should be enough to move on. At least starting Rudolph will get him some more reps in case he is our bridge starter or backup next season. Now, Willie, you were mentioning this, I believe, during the break. Looking at other quarterbacks who have struggled, who have since sort of built themselves back up. You mentioned Sam Darnold. We talked about Sam Darnold last week. At his lowest point with the Jets, as you looked up, even Sam Darnold was not as bad as Will Levis has been this season.
Yeah, and it was pretty close. Like the Jets were just as bad a team. He was 2-10 as a starter in his last year with the Jets, which was his third year in the league. And like has happened, we use Mac Jones's numbers as a reference point the week of the Jaguars game last week, where it sort of unravels, right? A guy starts and you're like, okay, not awful. We can work with this. And then there's regression. For example, the Jets with Darnold as the starter in 2019, his second year, he was at least 7-6 as a starter. He had 19 touchdown passes, passer rating of 84.3, QBR 45.6. He slipped the next year, that 2-10, where it was like, we got to move on. 32.9 QB rating, which is still high. That's bad, but it's still higher than what Levis is this year. And a passer rating of 72.7, which is unfortunately not good, but still higher than Levis. And I guess the point would be, he's now taken a circuitous route, right? He had to go be a backup somewhere, started a few games for Carolina. He went to San Fran and backed up, got this chance in Minnesota 4 years later, and he's a really good story. A rare story, but a good story. And maybe that's the thing with Levis. If he does bounce back someday, fine. Or if he goes somewhere else and does well, that's fine too. But he can't be the guy anymore with those numbers. right? Not after that many starts.
Eric is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Eric, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Hey guys, I was at the game yesterday. I tell you what, I never thought I would see a game like I saw yesterday in my life, because it's like somebody says, if you were to tell me that Cincinnati was going to have something like, I guess it was 14 penalties for 113 yards and 4 turnovers, you'd like a chance of winning the game. But of course, we had 12 penalties for 110 yards, and we also had 6 turnovers. And the 4 turnovers that Levis had, 3 of them were for touchdowns and 1 for field goals. So it was 24 points. And I had left the stadium. I heard the cannons go off when we scored on the last play of the game. It's just, I just don't want to make of it. I think they said the last time we had, like, where both teams, 26 accepted penalties for 200 yards. The last time they had was something around about 2,000. 10 turnovers. It's just ridiculous, guys. I'm to the point, and I've tried to defend Will Levis, but after yesterday, I'm kind of out on him too. I mean, I think the last interception he threw was like in the triple coverage. I mean, it's just so many wild plays. The Cincinnati defender who had a touchdown after Pollard fumbled, or supposed touchdown, but he fumbles the ball out the end zone. It's just, you never think you would see anything like that. It's just like, it's like we would gift wrapping the game to them. And it's just, I'm to the point where I know they're going to make the decision that they're going to make. If you start Will Levis, that's fine, but I think you got to put in Mason Rudolph. But I wouldn't have a problem if you had Levis the rest of the season.
You know what's weird about the game yesterday too, Eric? It was a bizarre game.
Yeah.
And Eric, thanks for calling. But how I was asking myself this a lot. The Bengals have to be really, really down and disappointed on their season. They have an unreal quarterback. Joe Burrow is incredible. And they have Jamar Chase. They have Hendrickson. They have some of those game-changing guys at key positions that teams drool over. The Titans don't have anything close to that. How are the Bengals 6-8? I know they play in a tough division, but their roster construction and things like that, they failed somewhere. You should not be in this position that they're in with a quarterback like Burrow and some of their star players. You agree?
Yeah,
Like,
you
how
shouldn't
can that
be. I
happen?
mean, their defense is horrid. They've had injuries up and down, but they are, from a defensive standpoint, they haven't been able to stop anyone. And, they've just had turnovers and inopportune times during games. Even looking at this game, if the Titans doesn't, even at the point that they bench Will Levis, they still had an opportunity to potentially win that game, because they were moving the ball to make it a 10-point game at that point. And then obviously you get the strip fumble and the score, which wasn't a score, and now it puts you back. But this team was in a position to make it a much closer game. Even after doing all that stuff with Will Levis, they still had an opportunity to make it a closer game, or even potentially make it a game before the second to the last turnover that the Titans made.
Yeah.
So you look at,
but that should never happen.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
How can
You
the
look at
Bengals be this
Cincinnati and you're
mediocre?
like, what's wrong with
like
them?
they got to be looking around going, we're behind the Colts. We're behind the Broncos with a rookie quarterback. How are we not in this race? I don't. That is the team that's got to be the most disappointing based on the quarterback that they have. You drool to have a quarterback like Joe Burrow. You should not be in this position if you're the Bengals.
No, you shouldn't. And I was just looking at some numbers here.
And by the way, in terms of scoring against, they gave up this season. They've given up 25 to the Chiefs, 33 to the Commanders. This is the Bengals, by the way. 24 to the Panthers in the win. 41 to the Ravens. Sorry, 26 to the Chiefs, 38 to the Commanders, 41 to the Ravens. They gave up 37 to the Eagles. They gave up 35 to the Ravens. Did they play? Yeah, they played the Ravens twice because they're in the same division. They gave up 34 to the Chargers, 44 to the Steelers. That's
a lot of points.
It's a lot of points. I
It
misread that.
No, it is a lot of points. I mean, I was just looking at, because we look at Will Levis and, whether the Titans bench him or not, that's basically a decision they're going to have to make very soon here. But I look at Will Levis and I look at his numbers. Obviously, they are not glowing whatsoever. But I look at him and I can only think of Zach Wilson. That's just basically who he is. The numbers bear it. Both of these quarterbacks, one was just drafted in the first round, the other wasn't in the second round. But these numbers are sort of the same, man. And if we looked at Zach Wilson from afar and said that's not the guy, I mean, it's evident he's not the guy. He's not seeing the field well. He's throwing balls where he shouldn't throw it. If we saw that in Zach Wilson, if you turn on the tape and you watch Will Levis, it's some of the same play.
Pretty similar.
Which tells me
high sack rate, low QBR,
which tells me he's not the
low
guy.
passer rating.
He is not the guy. Move on from him. Get you a starter, someone. Try to get you a franchise quarterback. But in the meantime, you got to get you someone that can at least hold the water while you find your next guy, because Will Levis isn't that guy. And I'm not talking about this season. This season is over with for them. I'm talking about next season. If whether you draft a guy or not, you got to bring in someone that can play some good football, because what you've seen this season from Mason Rudolph and especially from Will Levis, it's not winning football. I know Mason looks better, but it's still not winning football.
Clayton is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Clayton, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Hey, what's up, DVD?
How are you?
What's going on?
Better than I should be, man. Better than I should be. Man, I just feel like that if they would have put somebody in there in training camp that Will Levis would have had to compete with to earn the job, they would have knew in the beginning of the season he didn't have it. But they just handed him the job, and now we've stumbled and bumbled all through the season just to realize, oh, he's not the guy, and has, progressively gotten worse. So, I mean, even if he's going to be here in 2025, they should have to win the position. I mean, it's not like there's a clear-cut guy that we're going to go get. It's like, well, this is going to be our guy until, the next guy gets here. Whoever it is should have to win the starting job.
Thank you for calling, Clayton. Tim is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Tim, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Hey, guys, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Is a free agent QB going to want to come here with a craptacular offensive line that we have? Are receivers and running backs going to want to come here when you don't have a legitimate QB? Or so are we locked in on fixing the line first, or are we locked in on drafting the QB first? Because a QB who gets drafted doesn't have a choice about, hey, I don't want to play behind their crappy line. What's your thoughts on that, guys?
Tim, thank you for calling. I think that's a really interesting question, and we should answer that after we come back from break. 615-737-1025. Preds fans, don't miss this Wednesday night's Smashville live show at Brewhouse South in Cool Springs at 6 p.m. See your Predators star players up close and personal, and you can get autographs and pictures too. That's this Wednesday night at Brewhouse South in Cool Springs.
Let's tell you about Lee Company. And coming up tomorrow night, the Predators are back in action against the New York Rangers in Smashville. 4-game homestand. And when you come to Smashville at Bridgestone Arena, you'll see the display on Lee Company around the arena, on the concourse, etc. They've been a proud sponsor of Nashville Predators hockey for years. They help sponsor our radio coverage as well, which will be anchored by Max Hurst tomorrow night at 6. Lee Company also, their thing is getting your house or your business running properly with maintenance issues. And by the way, if you've got a maintenance issue going on right now that's nagging at your business, maybe you're sitting at work right now going, man, I've been meaning to do that. Look no further. LeeCompany.com, or call them at 615-567-1000. You got windows, doors, something that needs to be fixed. General maintenance is on the agenda for Lee Company. Same for your home, whether it's home improvement, general maintenance, or the bread and butter, the heating, the cooling, electric, and plumbing. Lee Company has you covered. 615-567-1000 or LeeCompany.com. In business since 1944 and a proud sponsor of Nashville Predators hockey.
Tune into 93.3 FM Totally Hits Nashville tonight for MTSU men's basketball. The Blue Raiders will take on California Baptist in the WAC/Conference USA Challenge at the Murphy Center. Tip-off is at 6:30. Pre-game starts at 6. Coverage also available on the Totally Hits Nashville app and at totallyhitsnashville.com. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Tim called in right before the break, Derek, and was asking us about the chicken or the egg situation with the Titans and their roster makeup, about how can the Titans go about fixing this team. Should quarterback be number one on the to-do list? Or are there more pressing things to do around the quarterback to take care of first before you go get that quarterback to make sure that quarterback is in the best position to succeed?
Whenever the quarterback is in the equation, the quarterback is the most pressing issue. When you don't have your guy, he is the most precious issue. When you don't have a guy that you believe can be the leader of your franchise underneath center, then that's the pressing need. So I understand where the Titans are at as far as their roster. They need some upgrades to the offensive line. I think J.C. Latham is a good player, and I think he's only going to get better. The notion that, he hasn't, he's been bad or terrible, that's just not the case. And for those that say he played bad yesterday, he didn't. Go back and just watch the film, and the film will tell you he didn't play a bad game. Did he have a few penalties? Yes, he had a few penalties, but it wasn't the way that some were trying to make it out to be, like he just played this horrible game. No, he didn't. Neither did the whole offensive line as a whole. They didn't play a great game, but they've been a lot worse. And I know the bar is set low. But if you don't have that guy under center, that's always the pressing issue, because if you don't have him, it makes it extremely hard to win in this league. As every team in the NFL that don't have that guy, it's hard to win.
I would say that it depends on what is out there. How do you best improve the roster? Well, what's at the grocery store, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have different ways you have a couple different ways. Free agency, who's available in the free agent market, who's available in the draft. And I think that has to weigh on your decision. I think you can decide philosophically what you think, and I agree with you. Philosophically, the quarterback's everything,
and that's the
but I can't just go.
That's where I come from.
I can't just say, "Hey, here's my philosophy. We're going to pick a quarterback."
Exactly.
But what if the quarterback says you don't like them with the scouts? It's like you have to trust your scouts. You have to evaluate. You have to believe that that's the best way to go, as opposed to a reclamation project like a Darnold or a Baker Mayfield or whoever is out there. You have to evaluate those guys. As we've talked about, we've been looking at these guys. Like Mac Jones had another kind of game yesterday.
It's almost like a
Daniel Jones.
Whoever comes
these
here,
are the guys that are going to be out
audition.
there.
Whoever comes here, it's an audition.
I think realistically at this point, and this is why I think I'd love to hear from Rand Carthon. I wish we were hearing from him throughout the season, but I think at this point, is it realistic that you can fix all this in 1 year? The caller is right? You have a couple of big problems. Your roster is not very good, and you don't have the quarterback. It's hard to fix it all in one season. So you have to take it one bite at a time, right? And do the best you can with the resources you have, with the available stuff that's out there.
See, the thing is if Will Levis had played the whole season last year, I think they would have went into last year thinking different. They would have probably thought, he's not the guy. Let's go get us someone else. Right where we're getting a new head coach and everything. Let's allow him to sort of evaluate the quarterbacks that are coming out, and let's see if we can move up and get one of these quarterbacks. But we didn't know about Will Levis last year because why? He was hurt. He didn't play the first half of the season. And then he comes in and he plays a few games. He looks okay, but then he gets hurt. So then you go into the offseason and say, we got to give him another shot. But make no mistake, you may not get your quarterback, but the quarterback is always the position, if you don't have him, is always the position of how do we get better underneath center? But if there's nobody out there, then it's like, okay, what's the next alternative? Do we upgrade the offensive line? Do we go get more playmakers on the outside to help the quarterback out? Or do we do that and then go get a veteran quarterback that can be a bridge guy until the next following season, if indeed, we're that bad where we can pick our quarterback?
So, Willie, you wanted to look at the 3 interceptions that Will Levis threw yesterday against the Bengals, because you feel that each interception displays a weakness in Will Levis's game. And let's start with the first one, which I think is the most complicated. Let's set the scene. It's 3rd and 7, second quarter, time winding down to the 2-minute warning. Ball is on the Titans' 44-yard line. He throws a pass that's intended for Tyler Boyd. It's intercepted. Now, from my novice perspective, I feel like that interception was more of a product of either the play design or a breakdown in the route running than Will Levis's decision making. What do you guys think about that?
I agree with your assessment. And the one thing that I think is also important to note is he had Calvin Ridley trying to clear out the safety running up the left sideline too. So you had 3 layers. And he clearly is trying to throw to the sticks to Boyd. I didn't think Boyd had a lot of separation. I don't think that pass was going to be complete. But he clearly didn't see that the defender that was covering Nick Westbrook-Akine came off his coverage and easily intercepted the pass. Now, what you just brought up, I wanted to hit D-Mace with, because it does seem like Nick Westbrook-Akine and Tyler Boyd were very close together. And so what's the play design there? I saw Will Levis come off the field. He looked at the iPad, and he kind of gave a very demonstrative, which I don't think is the right thing to do in that place and time, kind of a, oh, man, what happened there? He was frustrated with something there. So what did you see?
Basically, it was a flood to the left side. You got a down the field route with Calvin Ridley to clear out that safety. Then you have Nick Westbrook-Akine, who's on the outside. It seems like he is supposed to run it out, but then whip it back in. And then you have Tyler Boyd running the out route, which usually is 10 to 12 or 12 to 15 yard out. Keep it high and let the quarterback bring you down. What happened was, and Will Levis explained this. And it's good that he explained it, but it's bad in a sense, because what you're saying is it was their fault and not mine. I understand the way he explained it, but it made it seem like it was their fault and not mine. And I say that because I've ran this route, this concept plenty of times. The outside guy is sort of a flood. You're trying to read the high-low. If it's man-to-man, it's great, because now I can read it good, because now that whip route, he's going to take away the underneath guy. Calvin Ridley is going to clear out that safety, and who's ever on, because he's the furthest inside guy, Tyler Boyd. Whoever's on Tyler Boyd, hopefully he can get an outside release, get that guy on the inside, his right shoulder, and then take the ball high to the corner round and let the quarterback bring you down. So now I have good distribution with everybody, and I can see everything clearly. What happens is, and Will Levis said it, Tyler Boyd get jammed somewhat. Nick Westbrook-Akine doesn't finish the route out. He has to whip out, run it out. If he gets it, great. If he gets it as soon as you run out, great. But then if you don't, you whip back in to give the quarterback a clear picture of what's out there. They were playing man-to-man. The problem is the defensive back slipped. The defensive back, when Nick Westbrook-Akine ran out, the defensive back sort of stumbled, and Nick Westbrook-Akine didn't come back in. Well, he just left it right there. He's sitting right there, and then Tyler Boyd doesn't run the depth. Will Levis predetermines everything already without looking at the coverage, the end of the coverage. He just saw man-to-man across the board. So he figured they were going to be there. He predetermined where he was going to throw the football, and when he did that, the defensive back was right in the middle of both of them. Why? Because nobody got distribution in the route concept. Nobody. And the most important thing on route concepts, especially when it's a flood, you have to have the distribution, because there's so many people in that area. You got to give the quarterback a clear visual of what he's seeing. He didn't have a clear visual. He was predetermined to throw it over there anyway. And then those guys, all those guys, other than Calvin Ridley, didn't get the distribution they needed on that route concept. So Will should have never thrown that ball, but those receivers didn't help him at all either.
So it sounds like everybody made a critical error.
Everybody. It was, with the exception of Calvin Ridley.
Okay.
Because he was he was gone.
Right. But Nick Westbrook-Akine made an error.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Boyd made an error.
Mm-hmm. Will
Levis made an error. It was a comedy of errors. We may not have been laughing, but it was a comedy of errors, and it led to the interception.
And that's why Callahan got on there and said, listen, some was Will, some was other guys. It's a combination of and when you're not a good team, everybody can't make mistakes. You're not good enough to overcome 3 guys in a progression making a mistake. Nick Westbrook-Akine, Tyler Boyd, and then the quarterback. The quarterback basically was the cherry on top.
So what does for lack of a better term, what does a better quarterback do in that situation? When he sees that play developing, he sees Nick Westbrook-Akine and Tyler Boyd on that section of the field. What does a quote unquote better quarterback do?
Throw it high.
Okay.
You throw it high because if that's where you're going a corner, you throw it high because it's too mucky over there. You're on the short side. Were they on the short side of the field? They may have been in the middle of the field.
The ball was at the Tennessee 44-yard line.
But what I'm saying is, was it
Which
in the middle of the field? Which
I don't know.
I tend to think it was to the middle, to the left side of the left hash. So when it's that way, listen, yeah. So they were actually, it was on the right side. It was on the right hash, and they had a 3-by-1 to the left side with Calvin Ridley motioning, which told me once he motioned and that guy ran with him, it's man-to-man, people. Now you have to get good distribution in that route when it's man-to-man, because if you don't, everything just seems so muddied and mushed. He should have threw it high. It would have been a long foul ball at least, but it wouldn't have been an interception.
Mm-hmm.
615-737-1025. We'll break down the other 2 interceptions on the other side, but we'll also take your thoughts on Will Levis and the Titans at 615-737-1025. Tomorrow, it's your chance to participate in Preds Pick to Click. If you correctly guess a Preds player that scores a goal in the Preds game tomorrow night against the Rangers, you win a pair of tickets to an upcoming Preds home game. Participate with Robbie and Rexroad tomorrow morning at 8:45. I've got the play up. Which view do you prefer? Sideline?
We can go
All right, time to tell you about F&M Bank. Banking made easy on purpose. We made our picks on Friday. I went 2-1 again. I'm very curious to hear what my score will be on Friday. We've had discussions on our scoring system. Our producer, David Janes, is very scientific on how he does this. He has defended his system. I'm trying to catch the pack. I started behind Adam and D-Mace. I feel like I should be catching up. I'm playing good ball. But the point is, F&M Bank, we have a lot of fun with them, and we get their message out. Banking made easy on purpose. That is their purpose in life. Help you with your finances, take the stress level off, make it simple. That's where they excel. They're right smack in the middle of your community. They have 20 locations in our listening area. Just go to myfmbank.com. That's myfmbank.com and find the nearest one towards you and find out how they will make your financial life easier, whether you are a business owner, a young person trying to get a good financial plan going, a young married couple, whatever the case may be, they've got a program for you. myfmbank.com. It's F&M Bank, equal housing lender, member FDIC.
Mays, Vingid, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3. The Game. Is this Hannah Montana?
Of course.
Okay.
Hannah Montana.
Nobody's perfect. You gotta live and learn it.
Okay. Well, I outed myself there by knowing that right off the top. But I'm a Disney kid, so whatever. Would anybody be shocked if that was on Will Levis's playlist?
No.
Nah.
He's
not
pumping
really.
himself up in the gym, blasting some Miley Cyrus / Hannah Montana. Nobody would be shocked.
He
by
seems
that.
like a Hannah Montana type of guy.
Yeah, I could see that. But
There's nothing wrong with it, but oh well.
No, nothing wrong with it at all. I love Hannah Montana.
it certainly
I watched it a lot.
it certainly wasn't the best of both worlds yesterday
Good one, Adam.
with Will Levis and the Tennessee Titans. They lose 37-27 to the Cincinnati Bengals. All right, so let's get back to the Will Levis interception film room. So we looked over the first one. The pass intended for Tyler Boyd, intercepted late in the second quarter. Not to be outdone, with 1:12 left in the second quarter, it's 1st and 10 at the Titans' 30-yard line. Will Levis is in shotgun. Intends a pass for Nick Westbrook-Akine, sails it high. It's intercepted by Mike Hilton. Is this just, I mean, I think it's clear that it's just a poorly placed ball, but Willie, you said something during the break that I thought was interesting.
Well, I thought from an emotional standpoint, I saw him get very emotional on the sideline, very demonstrative. He's stomping around. I feel like that he let that affect the next play. That's the art of really all athletes when they make a mistake, is putting it behind you. You know, we can go Ted Lasso. You know, we've talked Hannah Montana, so we'll talk Ted Lasso, the goldfish, right? You come back. The most important play is the next play. I feel like the next throw was a little frustrated. I'm going to just fire it in there. He's got the right guy.
Yeah.
He's got he had options. If you look, I think everybody on that play is open. It's a first down play, right? It's
yes.
They're throwing on first down. They've got man-to-man. If he puts the ball on the money, it's an easy catch. It's a good play, but it's just high and hard. It's a high heater. It's not good mechanics, and it gets tipped, and he gets a little unlucky with where the ball bounces, but it's an interception-worthy throw.
It's just a bad throw. There's no way around that. It's high. It's a fastball, and it's tight coverage. If you're going to make that throw, which a lot of quarterbacks make that throw, you got to throw it out in front of the receiver or in his body. So if it's not completed, it's not a tip ball in the air, because once it's a tip ball, all bets are off. It was just a bad throw. It wasn't a bad read by him. It was just a bad throw by Will Levis.
And then the final interception, the worst of them all. Third quarter, 1st and 10, Titans 21-yard line, deep pass to Chikakonkwo, intercepted by Stone, return 39 yards for a touchdown. Just a brutal read by Levis on this play. I think this play probably is most representative of the Will Levis experience. This throw, this read, the result. I think that interception sort of boils it down to its essence.
And I thought actually, when I looked at it, I saw something different than what Moose Johnston saw. Moose Johnston, the analyst on Fox, was saying, just take the easy throw to Nick Vannett, who was out in the flat. But it was a first down, play action. He's got all day. There's no. It was a play designed to take a shot. Am I right, D-Mace? Yeah. There's only 3 guys in the route, and one of them is the safety valve in Vannett. But correctly, Will Levis is looking at the one deep safety. He's got Nick Westbrook-Akine going on a fly pattern, and he's got Chikakonkwo coming across the middle as the second guy. There's a lot of guys back in the coverage, but he's got all day. And so, D-Mace, take us through like what he's reading the high safety, right? He should be if the safety goes with Westbrook-Akine, it's Chig that should be wide open in the hole there past that first wave of linebackers, right? That he should be open. And if the safety cheats up, which he did, then you can take a shot to NWI, and maybe you have another long one to him. He's already hooked up with him a few times on plays like that. So what did you see on that play where he went wrong?
I mean, once again, it's him predetermining where he wants to throw the football instead of clearly reading the field. He predetermined. I think it was what, third and
No, it's 1st and 10.
Was it
First and 10?
Yeah,
It's a
'cause
play action pass on
you're
first
right,
down.
because they had just gotten
Tony Pollard, I think, had just made a really nice run.
exactly. Yes. So
Got him out of a hole.
to
They're still
me-
in the game.
To me, this was an opportunity to take a shot, in which they tried to. They called the play to take a shot, but Will Levis just predetermined where he was going to throw the football. There was no reason that he should have thrown that ball to Chikakonkwo. Why? Because the safety had already told you by his alignment what he was going to be doing. You took your snap, you play action, and it was clear as day. It's a 3-man route, really a 2-man route,
Right,
but
with
you
the
got
safety valve.
with the safety valve out there. There was no indication because the safety was flat-footed, and they tell you when the safety's flat-footed, throw it over
Take the shot.
top.
Take the shot.
It may be a long foul ball, or they may knock it down, but take the shot. When the safety is flat-footed, take the shot.
He was sitting
The
on the route.
safety sat there on the route, flat-footed basically. And Will Levis once again stared it down and knew exactly where he wanted to throw the football. He predetermined he was going to try to throw that over route.
So he didn't read the defense.
He didn't read
just
the defense
sort of
properly.
predetermined, hey, this is what I think is going to be there. And it wasn't there.
And that's what continues to get Will Levis in trouble. His decision before he even steps to the line of scrimmage where he's going to throw the football. I think this is the problem with Will Levis. He has so much faith in his offensive coordinator / head coach that the play he's calling, it's going to work because it worked in practice. And in actuality, every coach will tell you, just because we draw it up like this doesn't mean it's going to be that way. Read it out. Make sure you're watching your keys. Read it out. Your key should have told you that safety's damn near flat-footed. Don't throw that ball. And he threw it anyway. Why? Because he trusts in his strong arm. He's playing hero ball once again. And what have we talked about with Will Levis? Stop playing hero ball. And he got to a point where he stopped doing that, but it wasn't completely out of his system. So he ended up going back to it. Hero ball. Take what the defense gives you. Don't try to take what the defense isn't giving you. And that's what he basically did on both of those interceptions. Now, the first one, he had a little bit more help in all of it going wrong. The receivers not getting good distribution. And then, did I mention to you? He threw the ball flat-footed, going backwards. That interception he threw on the sideline that was supposed to be to
not good
Tyler Boyd,
mechanics on that.
He was basically flat-footed going backwards and tried to use his arm strength to throw the ball. Didn't get it there. Again, this one, he tried to use his arm strength to drill the ball in there to Chikakonkwo, and it didn't work. That defensive back sat flat-footed, and I'm not going to even say he fooled you. He didn't fool you. He told you what he was doing. You fooled yourself trying to believe that you can get the ball into that tight space. You didn't do it. That defensive back read exactly what you were doing, and you threw it exactly where they probably said you were going to throw it. Don't worry about it. Will Levis will throw an interception on this defense. Don't worry about it. And damn sure he did it.
Let's hear from Will Levis. This was Will Levis yesterday talking about the Titans' decision to bench him and what it means for him moving forward.
There were a couple of moments after the benching where it seemed like you might have turned around and glanced up into the crowd. Just kind of what was going through your mind in those moments as you were watching the game, just not in it?
I don't really remember what I was doing specifically or if I was doing that on whatever, but no, I was just trying to be there for my teammates and however I could help the offense to succeed and drive down the field, and they did a good job in the situation where we were forced to start passing the ball a lot more and driving the ball down, guys making plays, Tajay bringing this juice back. That was awesome. But I wasn't focused on anything other than the game.
That was Will Levis yesterday. He had some interesting comments. I think at one point he said there was nothing discouraging about the performance. It's just one of those days. And my first thought was the opening line from Break Stuff by Limp Bizkit. And I just couldn't stop hearing that for the rest of the day. I can't play it on the air because it's filthy, but it's
a lot of naughty words are in there.
It's a great song, but I was just thinking Will Levis as Fred Durst. Someone's going to have to make that mashup at some point. But he said it's just one of those days. And I was hearing what he was saying, and I was thinking to myself, other than the Limp Bizkit thing, once I got past that, and had a chuckle to myself. I understand that Will Levis is in a precarious situation. He's trying to preserve his confidence. He's trying to show mental, emotional strength in this situation. But there was another part of me that was like, you can't, like, is it like, I can't just brush this off. Like, I know that he's not going to go up there and say, man, I really suck today. That's about it for my career as an NFL starting quarterback. But like to hear him sort of just say, oh, it was just one of those days.
Well, he said a series of unfortunate events was the first thing he said along those lines. But I see what you're saying, Adam. It's and at that point, this was probably in real time, what, a couple of hours after the
no more than
benching.
a couple of hours. Yeah.
So maybe he's not as down.
Not
but
as
there's
down,
something,
man.
but there's something about his presence. And we've talked about this before. We talked about it when he went down in the Miami game, and just there's been other examples that we've shown. I thought yesterday was another example of how does a quarterback present himself? What does he give off? And he just doesn't have it to me. I'm the first to say, I don't like picking apart every word a guy says in a press conference, but it's a demeanor, it's a presence on the sideline. How does he carry himself in the huddle? And I don't like what I see with that. It doesn't resonate to me as a guy that's going to figure it out, a guy that's going to get there.
It felt like he was sort of talking himself into it. Like if I say these things aloud, maybe I can make them a reality versus maybe actually believing it. I don't know if that's the right way to say it. But you know how sometimes when you're trying to psych yourself up, you're like, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. Even though you're not really sure if you can. It kind of felt like that.
He's probably resigned to just, hey, listen, I'm a backup quarterback. And listen, that's okay. It's truly okay. Do you want to be a starter? Absolutely. Everybody wants to be a starter. But everybody can't be a starter. Everybody's not equipped to be a starter. Everybody doesn't operate themselves as starters. Only so few do that. And Will Levis at this point, he's done so much bad that I think any good that he has done can't overshadow what we're seeing with our own eyes. Again, that last play, that interception was just indicative of who Will Levis is. And no one should try to, skirt around it. Again, I've watched this play like 20 times. And when you see the coverage that you saw, you are taught to throw it over the head of the safety. It's a cover 3. Basically, that's what it is. That safety is reading your eyes. That safety saw Chigakonkwo coming out. That safety started to backpedal a little bit, just a little bit. It wasn't like he opened up his hips and kind of ran. It was like toward Nick Westbrook-Akine. No, he basically just backed up, flat-footed and just read Will Levis's eyes. The ball should have been thrown to the post, Will Levis. And this is the reason why I don't think he should be the starter anymore moving forward. Again, can he play in this league? I think he can. Yes, he can do that, but he shouldn't be a starter for this team anymore because that's elementary. That coverage, cover 3, elementary coverage. That's just what it is. And if you can't see that, and you didn't get any rush,
right.
The pocket was clean. It was, oh my goodness, the pocket was clean. You didn't even have to rush to throw the football. You saw that safe. Are you looking at the safety or are you looking at your guy? Because if you're just looking at your guy, I don't need you to be my quarterback. You got to look at what the defense is doing. The defense told you, you're not getting this over route. You're not getting it. You better throw that post. But you know what? We don't think you're going to throw that post, Will Levis. We just don't. We're going to sit right here on the cross, that deep cross.
But
it's not take it away.
And he's got the arm strength to throw that.
Yeah,
ball.
that's what I'm saying. He got the arm strength.
That's the thing. That's why I was confused because that was an opportunity.
That's why he shouldn't be the starter anymore because that was routine. That was something that you would see, Willie. That's something that if you were a quarterback Adam, a novice quarterback underneath center, you would have, and I'm trying not to, make light of it, but it's elementary. Cover 3, the safety hasn't opened up his hips to take away the deep route. If he's still standing there flat-footed, throw the post. It may be incomplete, but throw the post. Will Levis, that one play told me enough. You don't need to be a starting quarterback for the Tennessee Titans any longer.
We'll hear what Teron Davenport. Did you just play break stuff? Yep, thank you. Thank you. I was about to say, you better hit the dump button pretty quickly. 615-73. D. Mace, Vingen, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, and Adam Vingen here with you, joined on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, by ESPN NFL Nation reporter Titans reporter, I should say, Teron Davenport. Teron, we played Brian Callahan's news conference. You were there, obviously. Although Brian Callahan did not commit to a quarterback, it felt like reading between the lines a little bit, especially the comment about players needing to be held to the same standard and players in the locker room wanting to win. It felt like that was, as I called it, an indirect endorsement, perhaps, of Mason Rudolph. What was your read on Callahan's answers about that subject during his news conference?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure it was an endorsement on Mason Rudolph or not. That's why I asked those series of questions, because it almost seemed like initially when he was asked what would be the benefit of going to Rudolph, it seemed like he was saying it would show guys are held accountable, that everyone's held accountable, and it also would show the rest of the locker room that they were being given a chance to win. And that's why I asked it, because I wanted to clarify that that's what he said. And when I did ask those questions, it was a little bit of a different story, because to me, if that's the benefit, then you have to do it. And I don't think that a conversation is even had about it. So it is cloudy right now. I'm not sure exactly, where he is, but I mean, we'll see on Wednesday, Thursday, later this week.
You're in that locker room multiple times a week. You have good relationships with these players. I know that when the cameras are on, the microphones are on, they're going to be political, so to speak, politicians. They're going to make sure that they say the right things. They don't say anything that's going to cause headaches or headlines. But knowing these players as you do, Teron, as you talk to them on background, as you chat with them, how are they feeling about this quarterback situation? Because Derek has said many times that if the Titans keep going back to Will Levis, despite the issues that he's had, there is a danger that there are players in the locker room that you could lose if you continue to commit to Will Levis. So what is your read on the locker room in all of this?
One thing that I've found is that these guys are really good at doing their own laundry. They're not going to try to get involved in anyone else's details or things like that. But what's interesting is when you talk to the guys, they have an understanding of how difficult the quarterback position is. And there seems to be something that Will Levis has that they are holding on to. So I wouldn't say that anyone in the locker room, at least that I've talked to, is turning or anything like that. They're just kind of running their own race, and that's pretty much been what it has. Especially yesterday, talking to some of them, they're just like, well, I got my own job to do. I'm focused on that, and that's really what they're looking for. And that whole putting good play on film the rest of the season, that's been the mindset.
No, Teron, I know the question was asked. I don't know if you asked it or someone right after you about have they spoken with Amy, because, it was coming up, well, what are you going to do with the coach? I mean, not the coach, but the quarterback. And ultimately, is that a decision you can make solely on your own, or do you have to go with Amy? His answer did allude to there's a possibility they have talked or will talk. But what sense did you get? Do you believe they have talked to Amy about potentially benching Will Levis for the remainder of the season, or do you think that's a decision that ultimately comes maybe this week or next week in regards to them talking to Amy about Will Levis?
I think that conversation is going to be today. Just the possibility. I know, Brian Callahan has his weekly call with Amy, and so I think that's kind of how that's going to go. And it's only right to at least keep her, in the know of what's going on. But I think that's more going to be a conversation that Rand's going to have a part of. I think Nick Holtz will be involved in that conversation, as well as Bo Hardegree. So all of those will have that conversation together, and I think that's where the decision will come.
Now, I was listening to Joe and Robbie this morning. I think it was Robbie that asked Joe, how do you talk to Miss Amy in regards to, once the season's over with, how do you convince her that you know, she should continue with the regime that she has now, whether it be the GM president or GM president and head coach. What are some things that all three of them can point to in regards to the reasons why they should keep their job? Because I'm sure the quarterback isn't one of those things they can point to.
Yeah, I think it's just the foundation being poured. That's the main thing, is just establishing the understanding that, okay, look, this has not been acceptable, fully understood. It's year one in our collaboration together. I don't want to use in our teamwork together, like in our coming together, you know, it's year one in that, and there are some positive things. And I think you can point to, I mean, look, like the special teams unit, you know, the coverage, they're leading the league 619 yards return, right? But, I mean, you look at yesterday, 47 return yards allowed. The week before, 42 allowed. So, you know, that's something. And here's the thing. I mean, these are small things that we're bringing up, and just say, look, man, you got to win. You know, you have to win. But, okay, what kind of small things are possible that could add up to more wins? You know, and you look at the turnovers, getting 3 yesterday and 3, or maybe 4. I think it was 4 yesterday and
If
3
you count
the previous.
If you count the fumble at the 1 yard line, that was the 4th, but that is a turnover, right?
Yeah, well, whatever. The concept is that they've gotten more turnovers, you know, over the last 2 weeks. So, you know, that's another positive that you could point to. And unfortunately, right now, you know, they're at a point where they're grasping at smaller things because those are the only areas. So if you have an optimistic viewpoint, that's what you could do.
We do need to do a psychological study of why it continues to happen in college and pro football. The guy going in to the end zone and dropping the ball at the one line. You would think if one person would do it, that nobody would ever do that again. You're like, I'm never going to be that guy. But it happens.
Yeah.
It keeps happening. It's crazy. But
yeah, it's a mess.
Speaking of other lighter moments, it was awesome. The T'Vondre Sweat play and D Mays pointed this out off the air, but you can take us through it, TD, because it's not just the big guy gets the ball. Everybody loves that, right? But it was a great play to get the fumble recovery. And he continues to be, I don't want to say a small positive, because nothing that has to do with Meatloaf and T'Vondre Sweat is small.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, and I mean, he actually did a good job. He was credited with the strip too. So Landry got the sack, he got the strip. I was just impressed because even like right when he started
talk about
to run,
the pressure
that
he put.
He made a cut. He made a cut, and he made the first guy miss, and then he's running like the stiff arm. And like when he turned it upfield, like he looked like an actual running back. And then he even had the wherewithal to tempo it down a little bit and let Arden Key get in front of him and block. And I was impressed with it. And you know, he hit 15.86 miles an hour. That's the most the fastest registered speed for a defensive ball carrier in quite some time. I think like the last 6 years or so.
I thought you were gonna say that's the fastest Meatloaf ever clocked.
I do have another stat for you. His 30-yard fumble return is the longest for a player of at least 330 pounds since at least 2000. The previous high was Haloti Nada in 2011.
Big Haloti
had a 28-yard return. T'Vondre Sweat at 30.
Listen, and D Mays to tell you, Haloti Nada was a supreme athlete, man. He was a supreme athlete. It spent 2 years covering those Ravens, and it was towards the tail end of him. But man, he was definitely a supreme athlete. But I mean, like, you know, T'Vondre said, I told him, I said, man, you got to make a case for Marcus Spears, big man balling, and you know, he just said, you know, my case is I was a natural athlete. I just did what I do, and it showed my athleticism.
You know, I'm waiting now for the offensive alignment that has Jeffrey Simmons and T'Vondre Sweat in the backfield. Now that would be fun, but
well, he had a touchdown at Texas. So,
okay.
And by the way, the player that he stiff armed on that play, Alex Kappa, I believe it was 6'6", 310 pounds,
and he went down.
So,
he went down the
no
fastest,
small man that he just stiff.
Oh my gosh, he went down like it was.
That was
nothing.
a well placed stiff arm too.
Ooh, it was. But Teron, the disappointing thing about the defense, they did get the takeaways. You know that the Bengals are going to score some points, especially given the secondary issues that the Titans have. But another disappointing week, I thought, for the pass rush, in that they had a left tackle that had played one play on the season. And I was hoping that this could be a chance for a matchup for Arden Key to dominate, or Logan Harrell, who was in there a lot. I just didn't see the Bengals really having to stress that much of, oh, man, we've got a guy kind of like we've seen numerous times with the Titans, particular line, go back to the Dillard era, Nicholas Petit-Frere, like, oh, man, I don't know if we can block up this play because we got a big weakness there. Either that guy's a lot better than I thought he would be, or for another week, I want to see more consistency from the pass rush.
Yeah, you definitely need to see more consistency from the pass rush. And even when they get the rush, they have to find a way to get home and finish the deal. A lot of those, third down conversions, I mean, they were 9 of 12 on third, or 10 of 13 on third downs. And a lot of those came because Burrow was extending the plays. You look at the first one they had, the first touchdown, he extended two, eluded 2 sacks, and he threw the ball to Chase Brown, who was able to get open. You can't cover for 6 minutes. You know what I mean? And
right.
That's what happened. And, obviously not 6 minutes literally, but that's what happened. So, yeah, I mean, they got to find a way to not only get after more, but to finish it.
What would you say, you saw Rudolph get in there, take the small profits, right? High completion percentage, move the ball. The situation was different because they were way behind. The Bengals were playing the scoreboard. But when you heard, at least my interpretation, when I heard Brian Callahan say, look, we've poured all kinds of time and resources into trying to develop Will Levis. We have a standard for every position. And I saw Mason Rudolph clearly outplay Will Levis. It's no brainer, right? So didn't that sort of have you leaning in a direction that it's just time to move on and play the guy who played better? You've got these 3 interesting games. I was looking at everybody's schedule and where the Titans could pick. And Brian Callahan, he says, we got to play to win. I can't lose the locker room here. So my thought was, without saying it, he seems to really be leaning towards Rudolph. Am I wrong?
I mean, it's very possible, but again, you got to remember the situation. The defensive setup is a lot different. That stuff that he was taking is stuff that was being given to him. So it's not really the same to me as the first half of the game. And, when he did take a shot, like, he threw an interception. So it's
I don't know
just
what
one of
happened
those
on that
things
pass.
where, yeah, it's almost like you're I don't want to say, yes, I mean, you're kind of like picking the lesser of 2 evils, and the bottom line is neither one of them are guys you want to have starting long term, and that's no slight on Rudolph. Mason Rudolph is what he is. Like, he's a guy that could come in, and if you need him for a small stretch, boom, you could do that. But the way this small stretch that they have coming up over these next three games, like, I don't know if that's something where it's just this team is just, they're in a situation where it's just like, what do you really do? Like, it's bad right now. That's really the bottom line. Like, it's bad.
It's bad. One other question for you, and TD, I think you watched pretty closely the routine that Tony Pollard went through as they just determined whether he could play or not. He clearly is dealing with something. And as the game wore on, he wasn't in there much. How would you handle his situation? Because he is a guy that I think, will have on the team next year. And you've also got Tyjae Spears, who sort of came to life again the situation was what it was. But I finally saw that this is the player we were supposed to be seeing here all season long that's been almost invisible. How do you think the running back situation plays out given Pollard's injury situation?
Well, I would continue to work it similarly to how it was yesterday. And for Spears, the big thing was he was hurt, so you couldn't really see him as much. And even, when he was out there, he was dealing with injuries or not injuries, but, nicks and things that are keeping him from being the fullest Tyjae Spears he could be. So I know Callahan, he has said, all along, last week, that the plan was to get Spears more involved. So I think that's going to be the thing they'll do going forward.
ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter Teron Davenport joining us on the program as he does every Monday. Teron, always a pleasure, my friend. We'll talk next week.
I appreciate it. Take it easy.
Teron Davenport joining us on the program. 615-737-1025. We'll react to what Teron had to say, and we'll take your calls and texts as well at 615-737-1025. Willie Darnick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063. The Game. What do you guys want to do in this segment?
Hey, this is D Mason. You heard me tell you about Dr. Lodge and his staff over at Cool Springs for some time. If you set out to lose weight, chances are it's not the first time. Setting a goal to shed some extra pounds only to face disappointment. But at Cool Springs MD, Dr. Lodge and his team understands the frustration of this cycle, and this is why they offer a different approach to weight loss. Their comprehensive weight loss program is led by Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and addresses the root cause of weight gain with tailored nutrition, exercise, blood test supplements, and more. They will customize a program specific to you and you only. So connect with Dr. Lodge at CoolSpringsMD.com today to schedule your appointment for a personalized weight loss plan just for you. That's Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
D. Mason, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3. The Game, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Titans lose again, 37-27 to the Cincinnati Bengals yesterday. Will Levis benched, 3 interceptions, a lost fumble as well. So 4 total turnovers for Will Levis. We heard from Brian Callahan earlier in the program. Did not commit to a quarterback. Said he was going to take a couple of days. So we'll see at practice on Wednesday. But as we've discussed, reading between the lines, in my opinion, it certainly sounds as though he's leaning toward Mason Rudolph. We shall see in the next couple of days. So one thing that I feel that we can't blame this on is the play of the offensive line. So last week against the Jaguars, Will Levis was pressured just 5 times on 34 dropbacks. That's a quarterback pressure percentage of 14.7%. That is I guess you could say, the best performance by the offensive line this season. Just 5 pressures on 34 dropbacks. Yesterday against the Bengals, he had 4 pressures on 14 dropbacks, which is a quarterback pressure percentage of 28.6%. One of the better performances by the offensive line this season. Now, to put this into perspective, if you go back to week 2, for example, against the New York Jets, Will Levis was pressured on 60% of his dropbacks. Against the Texans in week 12, he was pressured on 52.9% of his dropbacks. So, although the offensive line we know is a problem, we know that it's an issue. We are not glossing over the issues with the offensive line at all. But when we look at Will Levis's performances over the past 2 weeks, by my very quick math, he has been pressured 9 times on 48 dropbacks. That, to me, does not speak to an issue with the offensive line causing the issues that Will Levis
Well,
has.
I think this is what we were saying going into those 2 games, the Jags and the Bengals. This is where statistically you should see a bump and do better because you're facing bad defenses, not just below average, but bad. And it's gone the opposite. They have regressed. That's what's really, really disappointing about these last 2 games at home against the defenses you face. But we've talked plenty about Will Levis today. Let's talk
By the
about,
way, 9 divided by 48 is 18.75. So he's been pressured on less than a fifth of his dropbacks over the past 2 games.
And the question, I don't know if that's a reflection of the line actually playing better. It's who you're going up against.
Right.
Like there's one elite rusher for Jacksonville, Josh Hines Allen, and Hendrickson is a great rusher for the Bengals. They don't have a great pass rush. They don't have a great defense. But let's talk about a huge issue going forward, and that is, where are they moving in the direction of the offensive line? If Nicholas Petit-Frere continues to struggle, that's water under the bridge now. We know they're going to try to replace him next year. He's going to be a backup at best, you would think. But it is critical that Latham and Skoronski are moving in the right direction. So I was thinking about that a lot, and I thought it was notable that you hear announcers reflect what they hear in the production meeting when they meet with the coach. And it was clear that Brian Callahan was selling J.C. Latham as a, quote, the word that they used was a cornerstone tackle. And I'm down with that. He is very, very young. You can see the talent. He's in a tough spot, and I think he is going to get there. But you're always worried about the rookie wall. Right now, you're getting to those tough games in December. You're facing a tough team, or you're facing a tough player like Hendrickson most of the day. And I thought he struggled some yesterday. He had 2 false starts. But I'm not worried about him long term. But I was thinking, okay, how is he grading out? Right? Is he getting better under these circumstances? So what does the Pro Football Focus have for him and Skoronski? Because to me, that's a very important question going forward.
Well, I just looked at J.C. Latham because I think this narrative, and I understand why, the fan base has this narrative, because they were so bad for the last 2 years going into this season. This offensive line has been so bad. And then at the beginning of the season, you just saw it didn't seem like they were meshing together, especially the right side of the line. So you just think in your mind anything that goes wrong is automatically the offensive line's fault. Offensive line still playing horrible, but that's not the case, people. The offensive line isn't playing horrible. When Will Levis has thrown those interceptions, it has nothing to do with the offensive line. The offensive line has played pretty good in those situations. The interception to Nick West, the one he was trying to throw to Tyler Boyd, he had enough time to throw it. The one he was trying to throw to Chikakonko, he had enough time to throw it. The interception he threw to Nick Westbrook-Akine, he had enough time to throw it. The pocket was as big as anything. So it didn't have anything to do with the offensive line. But I think some people just assume if things aren't going right, the offensive line had been bad in the past. They're bad now. This offensive line isn't bad. And J.C. Latham is getting better. I am not worried about J.C. Latham. He has gone against some of the best pass rushers in the National Football League. I would task those that talk about the Titans every day. Go back and look at the game. Watch J.C. Latham by himself. Don't watch anybody else. Watch him by themselves. And then y'all come back and y'all tell me what y'all saw. Because when I watched him by himself, like just zeroed in on him, he did a pretty good job at handling Hendrickson. Excuse me. He did a pretty good job at handling Hendrickson. He had 2 false starts, and he had a holding call, which, I mean, you're going to have 1 or 2 every now and then. The ones that I was more upset about was the false start penalties, because those are things that you can control as a offensive guy or a defensive guy. You can control that. That has nothing to do with your ability to play the game. That's all mental for me. So clean up that. I think he's had 9 penalties this season.
He has 9 penalties overall.
Exactly.
He has 1 holding and 7 false starts.
So we need to clear up the false start. But this narrative that J.C. Latham isn't getting better, he basically manhandled Hendrickson a lot of that game. Now, Hendrickson he's a damn good pass rusher, so he's going to get to the quarterback every so often. But he wasn't a big part in that defense in regards to what the Titans were not able to do. I understand he got the strip, the fumble on the running back, but those 2 guys were blocking down. They just called the right defensive front at the right time, because Latham and Skoronski, more so Latham, was blocking down, and Hendrickson was on the outside of him. So either someone's supposed to have him, or they're banking on the fake one way to hold him,
right?
And then
they
be able to run away. Exactly.
They faked the Spears, the wing back,
exactly,
reverse kind of thing.
But
he didn't bite. He shot right through there. I was wondering about that play because. The other thing is,
it was just a good. It was a good defensive
hold on to the
call.
ball. Don't fumble the ball. That's one thing if you're Levis. But I was wondering if it's designed, like you said. Hopefully he bites.
It's designed for him.
Skoronski and Latham both are pulling to try to get out there. Skoronski stumbled.
I'm not sure if Skoronski is a good puller.
Well,
I'm not sure.
I looked at that play and it just went awry from all kinds of directions. But it was another illustration how Levis can't quickly outrun the pursuit of a quick guy like Hendrickson. It just never got going.
But I don't blame that on J.C. Latham.
It looked like it didn't look like it was designed to block Hendrickson, but I was curious why he was unblocked. That was the point that Moose Johnston made, is how can the best player come through on a play like that unblocked?
Well, it's and Moose should know this. It's the fake. The fake is the block.
Okay.
That's what's the block. The fake is the block.
Was it a bad fake?
I think it was just he read it. He does his homework.
Okay.
And he read it. Had they given it to Spears going the other way, maybe he would have been able to get around Hendrickson. But Henderson read it exactly right. He pinched as the tackle was pinching down. He just came right off the tackle's butt. I'm sure that's not the tackle guy. The guy that's responsible for the defensive end is the fake. The fake is responsible for the defensive end to get him to hold, just stutter for a quick second. So then the guard can get around and then the tackle can get around and block. It didn't happen. Hendrickson read it perfectly, and Will Levis just didn't hold on to the football. That has nothing to do with J.C. Latham. That's why I implore y'all that talk about this team every day, go back and watch J.C. Latham this whole game. He did some really good things. He did more good things than bad things. The false starts, there's no excuse for that. You need to get that cleared up because you got too many in the season. But when you're talking about going out there and going against a damn good pass rusher, I think he did a damn good job.
So you feel like they're set at left?
Yeah, I
tackle.
think they're fine at left
because
left
that
tackle.
has to be the answer. I mean, they have to find areas where they can say, I'm good there.
Mm-hmm.
So now let me go over here on the other side of the line where I got a problem, or edge rusher, or any number of other things. Another good wide receiver, which I think they have got to go get somewhere in here. But what about Skoronski? Can you look at the left side with those 2 first-round picks and say, I'm good there? I hope the answer is yes.
Skoronski
I can't figure out.
He's not as athletic as I thought he would be. So is he? I think he will always be a solid player. And maybe they can wait a little bit longer because you got to understand, once Cushenberry comes back, and they're doing all this without Cushenberry. Once Cushenberry comes back and you can solidify that left side as you did at the beginning of the season. And I think had Cushenberry still been a center, this thing would look a little bit better because they would have been together longer. The best pill to fix an offensive line is that they are together.
Yeah.
That
keep them
continuity there. When you have no continuity, it's hard to sort of play that position or have a line that's playing at a high level when you have no continuity. So right now, the Titans don't have much continuity on the offensive line. They're still trying to build it, but when you don't have the continuity, but then you don't have the athleticism at some positions, it makes it hard because again, I don't think Peter Skoronski is athletic. He's not athletic enough because guards, they pull and they do. You got to be athletic to play guard and center. And right now, tackle too, but guard and center because they do a lot of the pulling and running up the field. You have to be a guy that can sort of get above your feet and go. And I don't think Skoronski's that type of guy.
For context, this was before the game yesterday. J.C. Latham had allowed an 11.6% pressure rate this season, the 7th highest among left tackles with at least 150 pass blocks. Now, it doesn't say how many left tackles are in that group, but that was before the game yesterday.
I also wonder about context with a stat like that because it dawns on me they're asking a lot of him because they know they have to protect the other side. Like, so where the tight end is helping, isn't he a lot of times helping Petit Frere? Like these are the questions I have. I don't know how they work that into their number. And I do think there's a lot of room for improvement. And I remember what Taylor Lewan has said on his podcast before about the PFF grades that everybody circulates around. Because sometimes I thought I had a good game and I looked at the PFF grades. I was like, man, that's not right. Or other times he was like, I don't think I played that well. And he looked and his grades were okay. He was like, all right, I'll take it.
It's subjective.
It is a little subjective. I think there is value in the numbers. So I was going to ask you, I know you subscribe to it, D-Mace. What are the grades of these guys? Like, I would throw Radens in there too, because they have to make a decision on him as well, right? Is he not a free agent?
Let me throw one question at you from Tom in Nashville on our text line. He says, if there is a top-ranked left tackle in the draft, and I don't know this, if there is a top-ranked left tackle in the draft, when the Titans pick, do they take that tackle and move J.C. Latham back to right tackle?
No. No. I don't think the left tackle is your problem. If it's not a problem.
But I guess what Tom's point is if you draft a natural left tackle, which J.C. Latham was not, he's admirably made the transition. I think the texter's point is if you draft someone whose natural position is left tackle, move J.C. Latham back to his natural position at right tackle.
But I think it's debatable whether his natural position is left or right.
Exactly, because he started as a left tackle.
Right. I mean, there's a long story there, right?
Story.
Fair enough.
He came up through the ranks as a left tackle.
He was the best left tackle in the
moved
country.
to the right because that was where the opportunity was at Alabama. So I think you could argue that he is a natural.
But I
left
understand
tackle.
what
But it's
the
a fair question. It's however I can get 2 good tackles.
Yeah,
I'm in on that.
Yes. All right, the PFF grades, Derek.
Okay, the PFF grade for Latham here, obviously, overall, it's a 61.8. Now, I don't think it goes up to.
That's not a. That's an okay grade, not great. Yeah,
he's a better pass blocker than he is run blocker. He's rated at about 67 pass block, 59 run block. So again,
the grades are not great.
Yeah, they're not. But it's the totality of the season. It's not like one individual.
It is some of
game.
a reflection of the line as a whole, the offense as a whole.
So with that being said, I'm trying to get to Peter Skoronski here.
And while you look at that, I think it's a pretty interesting question about what you do with Radunz, because Radunz quietly has filled the spot on the right guard. And in the name of continuity, right, where you're only looking to change one guy, and you can say, I got my other 4 guys. I'll work with them for another year. Radunz still is fairly young, but he's going to cost more.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not easy to just go out shopping and go grab. There's not a ton of great offensive linemen out there. So I am curious to see what they think of Radunz at the end of the year. Is it better just to keep your guy, keep it together, pay him a little bit more and go with it, or swap him out, grab somebody else? Because he's cheap right now.
Yeah, it is. Let's come back out the break so I can give you the Peter Skoronski numbers.
Okay, we'll do that. And I also, before the end of the show, want to discuss an epidemic that is sweeping the NFL.
Oh,
we do have something to discuss. So we'll do all of that next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Bingen, 1025, 1063, The Game.
Okay, time to tell you about Loan Pronto. Stop letting the high interest debt weigh you down as you look ahead to 2025. Pay it off in days thanks to Loan Pronto's new Rapid Equity Loan. Rapid Equity Loan from Loan Pronto. It uses AI-driven tech, gets you approved for cash out in as little as 1 day. So, for example, one client got $100,000 approved in under 24 hours. Then they turned around, wiped out the debt, launched a home improvement project for 2025, and is saving over $1,000 a month. Instant approvals, low fixed rates, fast transfers. Call Loan Pronto and see how much you can qualify for and what that does for your financial game. This time next week, you could be credit card debt free, for example. So call 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781 on approved credit, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
I just don't know why players do this at times and not. He lost that ball before. He was switching it into his other arm, and he lost that well before he got to the goal line.
No doubt about that. What a shot. And what should have.
That was Jordan Battle, Cincinnati Bengals safety. He thought he was in the end zone. Fumble recovery. The route is on in Nashville. And he drops the ball before he crosses the plane. The ball gets sent back to the Titans. But that wasn't the only instance of that yesterday. Jonathan Taylor did the same thing. And from that moment on, the game completely unraveled for the Indianapolis Colts after Jonathan Taylor failed to keep the ball in his hands all the way through.
At least the Bengals guy.
I don't think he was trying to showboat or anything. I think he was just trying to switch hands.
Yeah. Well, I think he was getting ready to raise it up in the celebration.
He was trying to switch hands at the last minute, not drop it like Taylor did. But they got to understand, man, you got sweat all over your hands, man. Just keep it in one hand until you cross.
Derek, when did you learn? How old were you? Derek, how old were you when you learned don't let go of the ball until you're all the way in the end zone and the referee goes like this?
The day I learned how to play football.
Spike it.
The day I learned how to play football, hold on to that thing until you get inside the pay dirt.
Clearly, it's not this next generation, this new generation.
It's
clearly
too cool for school. That's what it is.
At least the Bengals guy, they can laugh about it today because they
won.
won. Jonathan Taylor had a touchdown that would have put the Colts up 20-7 early in the third quarter in a game where both teams were having all kinds of problems on offense. I think the Colts probably win the game if he doesn't do that. And this is Jonathan Taylor. This is not some rookie.
Yes.
Right? But the game completely collapsed for the Colts after that.
The Broncos scored 24 unanswered points, and the defense forced 3 turnovers following that play by Jonathan Taylor.
It was shocking. And that was a huge game because if the Colts had pulled that off, they would have the inside track. If you take a look at the Colts' remaining schedule, they've got the Titans, they've got the Giants, and they've got the Jags.
3 bad teams.
They could have been on their way to 10 wins.
Yeah.
Even with all the drama and benching of Anthony Richardson. It's a fascinating thing. But one of the great stories of the year is the Broncos. They have found ways to win crazy games. They had that Monday night game where Jameis Winston threw for almost 500 yards, but they had 2 pick sixes.
Turned the ball over.
2 pick sixes. And I mean, and this guy named Nick Bonito, that is not the Nick Bonino that used to play for the Predators and several other teams. He's had 2 pick sixes. So the Colts, their season may have been lost on a guy dropping the ball at the 1-yard line, a veteran player.
Yeah, you just don't understand why these things happen, because when the first one happened of the season, I would bet everything that I have that every coach Monday or Wednesday, when they came back off their day off, showed that one play and said, don't let this be you. And then they left it at that and then went on about their business. But I'm sure every team in the NFL, even the team that it happened to, after the game, the next day or Wednesday, they showed that play and said, don't let this be you. Hold the football until you get in the end zone. Then you can do whatever you want to. But it just seems like for some reason, guys tend to forget about that as they're running to the end zone. They want to be too cool for school. They drop the football on the 1-yard line or fumble it outside the end zone. I don't think it's an epidemic. I just think, when it happens,
it seems to be happening a lot.
And when it happens,
it's happened in college as well.
Yeah, but I don't think it's this thing like,
I know.
We need to worry about it. I just think when it happens, everybody's like, we've seen it before. Why don't guys learn?
I know.
Right?
And it's happened enough.
Exactly. It's happened enough. Yeah.
There's got to be something that's an optical illusion. Your body thinks you're way across the goal line when you're not.
You're running fast, and
it's. I would love to see some sort of psychological study or physics study. Like, why do you have even you're not consciously doing? Let me see if I can drop it as soon as I break the plane.
Maybe
nobody's thinking that.
Should do like
they
hockey.
Think they're all the way. They think they're way in.
Maybe they should do like hockey. When the puck goes across the line, the light goes off. Like, go.
Wait for the light.
Exactly. Wait
Then
for the
you can
light
drop
to
the
go
ball.
off, and then you can drop the
And
ball.
why do you want to drop the ball? Like, take it in and spike that thing or something.
I don't know. These kids.
Who?
I mean,
Why are you dropping the ball?
I remember
they're cool, man.
the Jets had
But it's
their,
like I'm fascinated by
the
this.
Jets had a receiver
Uh-huh.
early in the season, a young receiver who had his first career NFL touchdown on like
Yes.
an end around,
Yeah.
who dropped it before he reached
It
the
shouldn't
end
happen
zone.
3 times in a decade. It's happened
Three
at
times
least
this
3
season.
times in the NFL.
That's
and
my
it's happened
point.
in college as well. Many
Because
times.
I think, and listen, the players are at fault with this completely, but I think I don't know. It's almost like this. I want to be able to, do something that then will ultimately be a part of Madden. Like,
Okay.
everything that happens
and
in
Jonathan
the game,
Taylor did go
yeah,
into some little dance that he had definitely prepared for the
everything
moment.
they do ultimately gets put on Madden.
Wait,
So if they
I
get their
missed
dances-
this. He did a touchdown dance after he dropped the ball?
Oh yeah,
Yes,
because
he
he
did.
didn't
I missed
realize.
that.
Yeah.
Oh, he
didn't realize.
absolutely did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these guys are thinking about my dance. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Because they know eventually it will get shown on ESPN across
I
the
missed
board,
that, man.
and
That's
then it will
embarrassing.
ultimately get into the video game as one of your signature touchdown dances or whatnot. So I think guys are. I don't know, man. I don't know, and I don't want to presume to know, but it just seems like sometimes they get a little too careless with the football. But quickly on another note, Peter Skoronski, we were discussing that
Yes.
off right before the break. The last 5 games, he has graded exceptionally well pass blocking. He has gotten better as a run blocker. The last 5 games as a whole, he's graded out a lot better than the first half of the season. This offensive line put together what J.C. Latham has been doing, getting better. This left side, even though I don't believe Skoronski is as athletic as a guard needs to be, he's getting better. And the offensive line is getting better. It's probably not where it needs to be, but it's far from where they once were. So I don't want to give this narrative that because of what Will Levis is doing, it's because of the offensive line. No. The offensive line has done a good job the last 5 games of the season. It's been the quarterback.
Stark is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I mean, I know hindsight's 20/20, but I mean, Rand Carthon, I mean, he hired this coach. I mean, I guess with Amy Strunk hired Rand Carthon, and I know for a fact, I mean, I got people inside the building that Rand shows up late and leaves early, and then he hires a coach that's never called plays and wants to be the offensive coordinator. And you think that this guy can all of a sudden do this? And I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. Obviously you can find guys like Matt LaFleur and other people, but I mean, this doesn't, to me, none of it makes any sense. I mean, you have a franchise like the Steelers that, they stay with their coaches. They have Rabel that's been pretty solid. And it's just like, she fires John Robinson, she fires Rabel. And then, I just don't get it.
Okay,
Thanks, Stark.
so
Well,
yeah, no,
thank you.
no,
Wait,
no.
nope, he's gone. Sorry,
Okay,
that's my
see,
bad.
this is what
We'll get into all of that more, but
no, I need to get into this right now.
Okay.
I do need to get into this right now because when you come on the air,
I meant the bigger conversation, not the part about Rand Carthon.
Oh no, I'm getting into the
I know.
the bigger conversation we had at
We'll
later
have that
on.
this
Yeah.
week.
But the Rand Carthon part, when you say people in that building, and they say Rand is coming in late, leaving early, you need to give a name to that. Because if you're not a part of that building or a part of what's going on, who is giving you that information? If it's right, okay, it's right. If it's wrong, then I think it's completely irresponsible for someone to come on these airs that doesn't have anything to do with the franchise that then say, well, I know people within the franchise and they're telling me that he's coming late and leaving early. Who are these people that are telling you this? That's what I want to know.
I think that's a fair question.
Yeah,
to ask.
it's like you just
I
can't
would
come
have
on
liked to
here
hear him expound on
exactly.
it.
You can't come
Just-
on and say, "Well,
just
he's
float
coming."
that out there.
Exactly,
Yeah.
like just throwing that out there at the end of the day. It's like, come on, you got to give more context to this, if indeed, because you have nothing to do with. So you shouldn't be. It shouldn't be nothing to say, "Hey, listen, this person says that he comes in late and leaves early." If it is the case, then okay, that's a problem. But you can't just be throwing that out flippantly, like, "Oh, he just comes in late and leaves early." Who and when? This hasn't been a problem, at least to my knowledge, that I've heard.
I'm not going
So,
to. I mean,
that's just my
I don't know who the caller knows. I don't know if the caller knows anybody. But when you throw something out there like that, unsubstantiated, it is hard for us to absorb it all.
And look, this is the nature of sports talk radio. This kind of thing gets
Yes.
thrown out there a lot in a lot of different ways, sometimes accurately, sometimes inaccurately.
So I'm
But
not upset with the guy. I just want to know, like, hey,
I
listen.
would have liked to have heard him give more detail on that. I will say that in the coming weeks, right, especially with where the team is, and Rand Carthon is in his second year, Brian Callahan in his first year, and Rand Carthon, I do think, is going to be evaluated big time.
And he should be.
And he has not really been there to defend himself and create his own narrative to where stuff like this, I think, is more likely to be fired out there because Rand Carthon doesn't get out there and field the questions to kind of talk about some of these issues.
We will get into that and a whole lot more over the course of the week. We will be live at Bridgestone Arena tomorrow. Predators and Rangers, incredibly fascinating hockey game tomorrow. And we'll talk about that because both of these teams are down bad. But we will be at Bridgestone Arena live tomorrow. Brand new dad, Jared Stillman, coming up next, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Be loved, love on your people. Have a wonderful, blessed, and safe Monday. Peace.